Life is concerning a rhino.
A rhino? Blimey.
Right? Yeah,
okay.
rhino. I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its 2 front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich. Don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, Christ, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because it was the 70s. I was in floods of tears. And as the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot a few years ago. Spurred? How do you get spurred by a rooster?
One here from Dan in Hampshire. Morning, Mike. As an Aussie that has been dive-bombed by our version of the Magpie, which is much bigger, every spring...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very, very good morning to you. What is it? Wednesday, the 22nd of October. JK on Morning Glory till 10 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in. So much to talk about again. I don't even know where to start, but I'm just going to throw something out before we get serious. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. At 6:03, Birmingham City Council, this is ludicrous, have already put their Christmas tree up. They haven't picked up any rubbish off the damn streets in months. Half of the city is plagued by giant rats. But Birmingham City Council have put their Christmas trees up. So I know it's very early and we'll get into the serious deep stuff. Wherever you are in the UK, please tell me they haven't done what you... I mean, Kristen showed me a video this morning of John Lewis, the Christmas store. It's not even the end of October. They already want your money. Have you seen anything Christmassy? A tree, lights... I mean, Halloween's tomorrow night. When is it? Friday. Halloween's Friday. I got married the week before Halloween 3 years ago, so the mother-in-law will be able to come because she'd have been busy. Ba-boom. Anyway, Christmas is a-coming. There's a spring in our steps and our hats at a jaunty angle. That's the happiest we're going to be because, as usual, the UK's on its arse. Welcome along. We're going to say a very good morning to a good friend of mine who's looking very countrified and basically very talented. James Price, welcome to Talk. How are you?
Hello, my friend. I'm very well. I'm looking very cuddly. Right?
Yeah, well, very cuddly, and as if you're going to go and shoot something. You know, a bit of hunting today.
Don't tempt me, JK.
As ever, please join the show today. Morning Glory 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Jay, the big news story all over every single newspaper, front of the Mail. We talked about this yesterday. Again, for me, one of the biggest scandals this country's been through. The grooming gangs inquiry, front of the Mail, descending into chaos. Yesterday we heard 2 victims had refused to take part, fearing a cover-up. Today, the potential chairman and now 3 victims pull out amid cover-up fears. And for people just waking up and tuning in, I mean, this is, for me, such a disgraceful cover-up. And we've had to almost beg this government for a national inquiry.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think that the more that people read about this, the more disgusted they will be. So maybe eat your cornflakes before you do. And as you say, I think it is probably the worst domestic scandal that's happened in this country, certainly in living memory, if not stretching back even
I sort of
further.
put it alongside the post office scandal and this grooming gang inquiry and the trauma of it all. And actually, for once, it's not just Starmer and the Labour government. This has been going on for years, and it seems almost as if so many different facets of our society, the NHS, local councils, I don't know, politicians, police. And what I don't get, and I know it's only 6:05 in the morning as a father, is these girls, very vulnerable girls, were abused, and you're covering this up. Disgraceful.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And because there's so much speculation swirling around this, because the scale of it seems to be so massive, it seems to have happened in so many places, and by the way, is likely still happening. Mm-hmm. The Daily Express reported as well that there were connections to London, which the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, has denied has ever been the case, but has been now confirmed that people have been trafficked into London for these horrible
acts. Have you seen that? Have you seen him refuse to answer? Have we got that clip? Because this, to me, is so wrong. Susan, what's her name?
Hall. Susan Hall.
Susan Hall. Yeah. She happens to be a Conservative councillor in the London Assembly. Literally, have we got the clip, by the way, or not? It's coming. Literally saying to him yesterday or the day before, Sadiq Khan, this is happening in London. Just have what refuses to answer. This is what we're dealing with. Have a watch, have a listen.
I asked you this question last week and you found every which way but not to answer it. Just how many grooming gangs have we got in London?
To avoid any misunderstanding, can she define what she means by that?
Yes, if you look at what's gone on in Rotherham, where there are people taking young girls, grooming them for sex, that is what I'm talking about.
We know in London there are issues about exploitation of young people, but they're not as defined by the member in her definition of what those types of gangs are.
So are you saying we haven't got the same sort of gangs that are in Rotherham, Bradford and lots of other places in the country?
Just for you misunderstanding, what does she mean by that?
You know full well what I mean by that. It's all over the television. You know exactly what I mean by that. These gangs of people that are grooming young girls for sex. Do we actually have those in London?
I'm unclear, Chair, what is meant by the question. If you could spell it out, I can answer.
I've just spelt it out. Are you not listening? It's the sort of gangs that groom young girls at a young age for sex. Exactly how much clearer do you want me to be?
I think it's I'm not even taking aim at specifically Sadiq Khan. All of them. How disgraceful is this?
Yeah, well, this is why there needs to be a full inquiry about this. This is the problem, that because it touches on so many different areas, we said the police, on social care, on the NHS, because it's happened for so long, because it's happened in so many different places, and because there's so much potential for it to drag racial issues and cultural issues and ethnic and all these sorts of things. People throw around saying it's the Pakistani gangs, others say no, there's lots of other people doing this, of white people doing it, all of these sorts of things throwing around. That's why there needs to be a proper judge-led, I think, inquiry into all of this that manages to get all of the material and lays it out very properly, so we know exactly what it is we're talking about, without any obfuscation, without Sadiq being able to say anything like that, without parties hiding, or without people being able to say, well, I didn't want to look into this because I didn't want to be called racist or anything else.
Well, let me answer this, because there was a point yesterday I said something and it got a bit of traction. I don't know, you're not a father, are you, right?
Yeah.
I am allowed. Oh, blimey, it's a bit early for that. I'm allowed to say this as a father. I don't think this is not about, in my mind, your colour, your creed, your religion. I don't care. If you think as a man it's okay to abuse young girls, you have no place in a society that I want to live in. Right? You have none. I cannot believe we have had to drag this government and past people to the table, because it only makes me think in my mind they're covering this up because this goes as high can go, and I call it an indelible stain. Morning, Jez. What is happening with the grooming gangs inquiry is exactly what this bloody government wants. They still hope it won't happen, Dave in Aberdeen. Jess Phillips, a woman who, let's be honest, I know Jess Phillips and won't talk to us now, and Jess Phillips has always talked about women's rights and women's safety and stalking. Total support. She was trotted out in the Commons in April just before recess to go, we're not having a national one, we're having local ones. Bye. Enjoy your holiday. Everybody went, whoa. This is a woman who now, right, we've got a statement from her. Now, apparently, this isn't appropriate. This is Jess Phillips yesterday. This is beyond me as well.
The government remains resolute in delivering Baroness Casey's recommendations following her national audit into group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse. These crimes committed by grooming gangs are among the most horrific imaginable, and her report exposed over a decade of institutional inaction, and we are determined to ensure such failures are never repeated.
I know, Jess Phillips, that is written off a card. There is no emotion in that, and I don't even believe a goddamn word she says. What do you make of it, Peeps? 0344 499 1000. Don't you agree with me?
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's not just me agreeing with you, but it's various victims who had been appointed to this inquiry who now say they have absolutely no faith in the process because it seems like the Labour government is trying to expand this out to being all kinds of abuse of children ever, which is obviously a very bad and very important thing to look into. But if you take this specific and important inquiry and you open it out that wide, you'll never get any specific recommendations, you'll never get any actual answers as to what has been going on. And when you look at what some of the campaigners have been having to do, raising a lot of money to get court transcripts transcribed and written out, and then, I mean, I'm not going to repeat any of it, but Katie Lamb, the Conservative MP, read some of this stuff.
Great job, by the way, Katie Lamb.
It was amazingly moving. My wife says, every now and then she gets lost in thought and thinks back to the horrible stuff that Katie Lamb read out that these people have committed. We need to get some action in it. If you think there are victims, many of them, tens of thousands, walking around this country suffering that stuff, and the government doesn't want to do anything about it,
but mate, I never stick up for Starmer. This goes back.
It does.
14 years of torture. I don't understand. My problem is, as a father, I don't understand how these people can look themselves in the eye. Chris Philp, who's done quite a good job, I think, recently as the Shadow Home Secretary. This was his response to the gang's the glowing clamour, quite rightly, for a grooming gangs inquiry.
This scandal arose because young, mainly white girls were systematically gang raped, and this was covered up by those in authority because the perpetrators were mainly of Pakistani origin. So it's all the more shocking that when calls for a national inquiry became public in January, the Prime Minister smeared campaigners as jumping on a far-right bandwagon. Comments like that are a disgrace and are what led to this scandal being covered up in the first place. Months later, just 2 days before facing a vote in Parliament, the government finally agreed to the inquiry. But it's clear the government never wanted this inquiry, they were forced into it. Perhaps that is why, months later, the government has said nothing substantive publicly, and their inquiry is descending into chaos.
It's extraordinary to me. I genuinely, hand on heart, of all the things that I've discussed in 3 years on this station, do not understand why our society cannot go, this is repugnant, this is vile, this is disgraceful, this says nothing about us, we need to get to the bottom and the top of this. Don't understand.
No, I'm completely with you. And there are some people on the left who go, oh, well, people are only jumping on this. They don't really care about children. They're only jumping on it because there's a racial element to it, which I think was to belie having any conversation.
This isn't a racial element. This is about young children being abused by adults who should be in prison.
Go and have a conversation with any right-winger in any pub the length and breadth of the country, and any child abuser would be in for the most brutal punishment imaginable, regardless, as you say, of their skin colour or their race or their creed or whatever else. Right? I'm very happy if we find someone guilty of this stuff to bring back some of the most severe punishments on earth for these people. If you cannot protect the most vulnerable people in society, what on earth are any of us doing?
And by the way, these girls, so many of them were from broken families. So many of them were, some of them had illnesses. Just disgraceful. I'd love to think you've got an opinion of this, my friends. 0344 499 1000 for Morning Glory. Damien is up and at it this morning. Top man. You can text 87222. Start your message with the word talk. And Christian, looking very nice in a beige jumper this morning. We'll take your voice notes. 0344, apparently that's on WhatsApp, 499 1000. So many of you want to talk about this. The other thing that's in the newspapers today, which is in the Times. I love the way they throw all these newspapers at me and then expect me to follow. I haven't got the Times. Doesn't matter. You've nabbed it.
Here's one I made earlier.
We've only got one. Page 2. Now, again. Nearly 1.9 million foreign citizens claiming UK benefits. We were talking before we came on air. Nearly 24 million people now in this country claiming some sort of benefit, but that's pension credit and all those sorts of things. But foreign citizens claiming benefits in this country, when Reform and certainly the Tories stood up and were talking about how they want to deal with immigration, how they feel that people that come to this country should embrace this country, they should learn the language, they should get a job, they should build a reputation, respect it, blah, blah, blah. I am all for that. I think it's absolutely, I don't even know why it's taken so long to say that. But for a country that's skint, for a country that cannot afford the interest on its debts, again, nearly 2 million people are having benefits and they're not working and they shouldn't be here. And that's not in any way being disrespectful, because I'm going to throw out on breakfast the story that I always tell. You've heard me say it before. The man that picks me up most nights from the station came 40 years ago to this country from Bangladesh with his father and his 2 brothers, and his dad said to him, listen, he sat him down and said, this is a great opportunity, it's a great country, you will respect it, you will follow the rules, you will work hard, you will build a business, and you will... He's more against illegal immigration than I am, man. Right. Because he's done it correctly. Cannot have people come into this country simply to sign on. It makes nothing of who we are. You're completely right. And I think you've hit the nail on the head on the 2 exact points. There is the integration point here, and this idea that it's in any way a problem to not want people coming to this country receiving, as you say, taxpayer benefits, to not even bother to integrate. You know, there are these areas now where people go, you'll never have to learn the language, you'll start seeing signage up in other languages and all these sorts of issues, and not bothering to integrate in any way, shape or form. The other point you make is on the economy of this. Right? There may be an argument that if we were the richest country on earth, if we were pooing out money like it was nobody's business... I like that, pooing out money, imagine that. That you could have this kind of largesse of Great Britain, wonderful, all these people come in here. I can see there's a sort of lefty argument for that. But we are so beyond broke right now. People do not realise that the technical public sector net debt, over £3 trillion now. When you add in, by the way, just to really scare people, all about what you call unfunded pension liabilities. So we've promised the state pension and public sector pensions to people. We haven't worked out how we're going to pay for that in the future. Unfunded. 12 to 13 trillion pounds. And by the way, we're borrowing money every month, more than we have. That is tax that's going on to the future. 20 billion we announced yesterday when Richard Tice came on. 20.4 billion last month simply to service our debt. And so from a fiscal point of view, and I'm not, you know, I'm probably more intelligent than Rachel Thieves when it comes to adding up, but I'm not. I failed my maths O-level 6 times, so it was all right in the bookies. But here's my point. Apparently there's a black hole, right? This is Jesonomics. And you owe 20-something billion, and you come to power and you think, well, I'm going to have to live within my means. No, I'm going to give the doctors 11 billion. They're going to be back in a year and wanting more, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to just sort of please a few of them. Then I'm going to give the Chagos sons, but it's another 16 billion, so I'm now at 50 billion, so it'll cost me a bit more to pay that back. And that leads people, quite rightly, who are not being racist or right-wing or unfair, to go, hold on a minute, let's just look at this. Our country is such a pull that you can come here illegally and get treated better in terms of medication, finance, education, almost everything, than the people who have paid their stamp for years. And that's the difference now, in my humble opinion, because the silent majority have gone, hold on a minute, I've done this years. I've given, I've been... I'm missing out now, and that's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Yeah, absolutely right, and this is completely bonkers. Because let's remember when the Tories, when my lot came in 2010, they had to make all kinds of difficult spending decisions, and they did that, I think, pretty well, actually. I think they would, if it were me, I would have gone further and faster, because in some of the areas that you did see cuts, didn't actually see a drop in performance in most areas, actually. And I think if you got more growth going, you wouldn't have to do so many cuts. We can do all these balancing bits. One of the things the Tories didn't cut was international aid, and you add all that up from the 2010 all the way through, and we're talking like 150 billion pounds that went out the window, and I can't really see how appreciably that made the world any better. It probably made the pockets of dictators in third world countries a lot fatter, but that's about it. All we can do in helping people around the world is to trade with them, is to have a decent level of capitalism, teach them how business works,
And after that, you've got to let people get on in their own way. It's what Donald Trump has realised in the Middle East. You can't necessarily change these places. You can take them as they are. You can do business with them. And if you start having capitalism with these guys, then you might end up with peace. And you might end up with a prosperous society there that stops them wanting to come over here. But until you've got that, and until we get rid of all the mad pull factors, as you say, you get treated better as an illegal migrant here than as a Brit, then we're going to have this problem continue on and on and on until some leader comes along and says no more.
And I think also, I think that the debate in this country, be it about benefits to foreigners, immigration, grooming gang inquiry and chaos, I always thought for a long time that the British public were bored of politics. They had no sort of belief in politicians after the expenses scandal and COVID. But actually I think where politicians go wrong is I think the British public are totally switched on, because I think the British public, love to know what you think this morning by the way, are going, as I said before, I've done my bit and I'm missing out. I'm 28th in the bleeding queue and it doesn't make sense. 0344 499 1000. I'm going to come back, and I'm not going to depress you too much, but I can come back and tell you that basically Rachel Thieves plans to raid your money even more. So I'm going to go to the break with a really... It's nice, actually, because this is Richard III, as she's called, because have a look at the haircut. In happier times, talking very honestly and openly to kids. And as you watch this and listen to this, this lady runs the nation's purse, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been hearing about you in the news that you like taxes. If you had 3 wishes, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. To answer your questions well, to make sure that all children have a good start in life, and for my own children to give me less chat back. I don't think that third one's going to come true.
If you could have another job, what would that be?
Oh, well... What I'd really like to be is Beyonce, but I don't think I'm ever going to be Beyonce. So before I became an MP, I worked in finance. I worked in banks and financial institutions. So I guess that's what I would go back to doing. But at the moment, I'm doing the job that I want more than any other job. I'm in charge of the country's finances. All right? Yeah, you happy with my answers? I get a high five. Hey, very good.
James Price, any chat back on that?
Has she ever spoken to a human being before? It's like one of those early AI models. God,
I didn't know she had kids. Nothing will surprise me anymore now. This is Morning Glory, back in 3.
that's exactly what Fiona and Eliane are saying now. We want an investigation directly aimed with the victims. What are we going to investigate? Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
So what goes through someone's mind? If there's pressure coming from above, I'm sorry, I would have acted, I would have said something. So it's a shame that hasn't happened in the past, but it could easily be that there was that pressure in some of the smaller forces. Now, GMP is not a small force, but of course, a lot of the little areas within it might be that that's where the pressure was.
Yeah.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, good morning. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. JK Morning Glory, 6:25, like you give a damn. Good morning, Jeremy and James Price is with us. Khan referring to Susan Hall as she rather than you hammers down what a nasty and arrogant man he is. Let's hope he's forced to resign. I'll tell you what, Jules, I'll tell you what I say about Sadiq Khan. I cannot believe that 1 million Londoners voted for him, but I'm perhaps more annoyed that the 11 million other Londoners didn't turn out to vote, because he's a disgrace, isn't he?
Well, the people that vote for him realise the consequences as knife crime spikes and you can't walk down the street safely anymore, and they flee London, taking some of their bien-pensant lefty ideas out to the home counties and beyond with them. But that's OK, because Sadiq just brings more people in from abroad who don't realise, think, oh, this guy looks nice, and they vote for him, they realise, and the cycle repeats. That's how he keeps getting back in.
Tim says, morning, gang. Jess Phillips sounded, and more importantly, looked like she'd been forced to read the Jackanory statement. This goes right to the top. Couldn't agree more. Hello to Michelle. I've had enough, Jez. What a topsy-turvy world we live in, where migrants that abuse our kids are protected. Why are these barbaric people here? It's not true or right at all. Steve, good morning. Jez, watching Jess Phillips answering an urgent question over the grooming gangs in Parliament yesterday, it was obvious she didn't want to be there and thought she got better things to do. Her hatred for the Tory and Reform MPs was plain to see with every response. She doesn't... Yeah, I'm with you. Peter Stone, he's in Croydon. Lucky man. Jez, sorry, mate, but you don't have to be a father to have to say that that is an abhorrent crime. Yeah, you know what? I just speak because I am a father, but you're right. Phil, our kids are not safe to walk the streets, and now we get branded as far-right racists for speaking out, just wanting these British Pakistani gangs to be rounded up and imprisoned. And all of that was based, JP, on the fact that one of the senior police officers during the Rotherham problems up there years ago said, well, we didn't want to do it too quickly. That's why it took us 8 years, because we didn't want to stir racial tension. That's what causes all this rubbish. This is not... Carol, sorry, morning, Jess. Jess Phillips, all the Labour Party have no moral compass. They want to protect their seats, protect the Labour-run councils who were totally complicit in ignoring the rape gangs due to the ethnicity of the perpetrators. This is what this is all about. As Angela Rayner would say, they're all scum, in my opinion.
Very strong words. But there is definitely a lot in that there were Labour councillors who definitely knew what was going on. How deep does it go? How much were they involved in this, and how much was it the fact that the Labour Party has for a long time in lots of seats relied on votes from certain communities to do this? You mentioned Angela Rayner. There's a shot of her going in and sitting down in a room. It's full of men only, obviously, and she's talking exclusively about Palestine and Gaza, not about bin collections, not about what Labour are going to do for the country. Please give me your votes and we'll vote on these sectarian issues only. The thing is, for Labour, and they need to get wise to this and fast, it ain't going to work anymore, right? This isn't the kind of community that they could rely on in the past to go out and trot out and vote for them. You've now got the Green Party, the deputy leader of whom is a terrible man who has bullied a rabbi and his family so badly that he's faced death threats and has gone into hiding.
Absolutely.
Said all kinds of other stuff. And you've got the ludicrous Your Party with Jeremy Corbyn
the Fruit
and all
and
that
Nut
lot.
Alliance, as I call it.
Superb name. And those guys are, pretty extreme as well. And we've started seeing some of those people come out and say how good it is that Jews are no longer going to be able to go to the Aston Villa football match in Birmingham. So there are these kind of more radical options out there. People are going to turn away from the Labour Party, just as the rest of the country has seen what Labour is doing in governing, will turn away from them too.
It's interesting what you said about sectarian policy. I mean, I miss Angela Rayner. Have you heard the news? She's gone and set up a new a property business. It's called Wrong Move. Thought I'd drop that in. But that clip that you're talking about, because Labour MPs, let's be perfectly honest, I believe that so much of their policy right now is based on the fear that, I mean, Ayub Khan, that independent MP for Birmingham, stood up the other day and basically I thought was anti-Semitic. In fact, Lisa Nandy said that, and one of the things that I find more abhorrent, as on a level with the grooming gangs, is the fact that I hate all racism, it is abhorrent. But nobody seems to accept that anti-Semitism against white Jewish people is as horrific, and so many of them are suffering. And this guy was absolutely complicit. Angela Rayner, that clip you think, the Labour Party are terrified because the independent MPs are standing up on Gaza and nothing else. This is a clip, actually, of her with the Pakistani community promising to vote on whatever they want. Have a watch. This is when she was an MP.
If Labour get into power, we will recognise Palestine. I will push not only to recognise, but there is nothing to recognise at the moment, sadly. It's decimated. We have to rebuild Palestine. We have to rebuild Gaza. That takes more than just recognising it. It takes resources. It takes infrastructure. It takes expertise. We need teachers. We need civil servants. We need all of the infrastructure. That's a big job.
Yeah, she's no longer. She's working in property. Let's move on to the other. Let's move on to the other names. Rachel Reeves. We saw her before the break, wanting to say that she should be Beyonce. I think she should bloody well stick at that. She plans a $2 billion tax raid on the middle classes. We're not. This is the point that you and I have talked about off air. The Labour Party essentially, Peeps, has one policy and one policy only. That's to tax. They'll tell you the rich. All of you. That's what's coming, right?
Yep, absolutely right. And the problem is there is not, as we talked about before, the economy is not doing well. There is not enough wealth in the wealthy to be able to fix that. Even if you think you could just shut all the airports down, turn off all the international banking routes and squeeze and soak the rich of all of their money before they manage to escape, there isn't enough to fix the problems that Labour have been causing. There probably isn't even going to be enough if you take that down from the rich to the middle classes.
Yep.
The problem we have in this country is almost no growth because we don't allow it to happen.
No, we said we're coming to power. It's about growth and working people.
I forgot that Labour were the goodies, so they could do whatever they like. But that, by the way, is the mindset, right? I think Labour got high on their own supply. Thought when we get the evil, nasty Tories out, everything's going to be all right. And lo and behold, it's more difficult than that. We've got no growth, and we've got an addiction to public spending. And by the way, public spending, because it's not your own money when you do it, you've not got the profit motive, or dare I say the price mechanism to keep you honest on these things, the money is much worse spent than if it's a private company doing it, right? That's the logic behind all the privatisations in the 1980s that produced so much growth for us. So these are the problems, and Labour are, I think, pathologically, genetically incapable of realising they're spending too much and they need to be more pro-business, and that's why we're in so much trouble.
And you can look at it and you can go, you must understand that we're not living within our means. And the reason, and I'll keep going back to it, the British people have had enough is they're being stretched. Their electricity bills are going through the roof. Their food bills are going up threefold. Everything's more expensive. Council tax, why won't raise it? Well, you have, haven't you, lying git? And then they look at what other people who perhaps haven't paid are doing. Voice notes asunder. James on the grooming gangs, go.
Good morning, Jezza. Good morning, James. Now, this rape gang scandal, where's Starmer? Once again, Starmer's buggered off. He should be here. He's up to his neck in it. And what does our great Prime Minister do? On another holiday off to Brazil again. What an absolute joke. And all them members that were involved in this should all hang their heads in shame. They have failed those poor children that have been raped. Absolutely disgusting. Anyway, Jezza, enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, mate.
And he's right. He's absolutely spot on. We'd love to hear your voice notes this morning. Christian needs to be employed. He isn't anything for half an hour. 344 499 1000. Complete horror. Thank you for all of that. The other thing that we did yesterday, so let's just wake up and say, the children in the country are being abused and society wants to do nothing about it. There are foreign citizens taking benefits from you out of your pocket, so that essentially what's going to happen is you're going to be taxed more. Welcome to Wednesday. Yesterday, we launched, and Christian's the only thing that Christian's very serious about this, we launched a new feature on Morning Glory called Ring Rob, which I thought was creatively brilliant. Basically, Robert Jenrick has agreed to become the shadow Justice Secretary. Good man. I think he should have been the leader of the Tory party by a mile. I think they missed a trick. Anyway, he's agreed to come in once a month, and yesterday was day one, and it's called Ring Rob. It's even got a jingle. Anyway, in he came, and it made all the newspapers because, and I quote, he signalled he would ban the burqa if the Conservatives return to power. The Shadow Justice Secretary said legislation should probably be introduced to outlaw the wearing of the garment in public. His remarks appear to signal a split on the issue with Kevin Badenoch, the Tory leader, who had previously insisted she would not introduce the ban. The burqa, which some Muslim women wear to cover the body and face, is already banned in European countries, including France and Belgium. Let's just have a listen specifically what Rob said to me yesterday on Morning Glory.
Just a thought. Instead of banning Maccabee, how about banning
the burqa and halal meat.
Right.
Well, I probably would ban the burqa. But then you've also seen Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, say in the last week that this is something that she's going to pursue. So I think there's definitely a strong argument for it. Look, there are basic values in this country, and we should stand up and defend them. And where you're seeing them fraying at the edges or frankly being completely destroyed, whether it's Sharia courts or wearing of the burqa, these are issues we're going to have to confront if we want to build the kind of society that we want to hand on to our kids and grandkids.
Thoughts on this, Jay?
I think he's absolutely right. I think he's very courageous to say it. I think it's what the vast majority of the compassionate country believes. A bit of a test for my party, for the Conservatives, not to panic too much about this. You'll have a couple of ghastly North London Liberal lefty types come and say, oh, is it men telling women how to dress? Which happened to me on Twitter last night, some moron from the Mirror saying this. Well, my mum wouldn't let me wear jeans until I was 13, so it's just the same. I think his mum should have taught him some empathy and some compassion for other people. There's a school around the corner from me where 5-year-olds have to cover their hair. It's mandatory from the age of 8. It's optional from when they start at 5. And you walk down the street and you'll see every 5-year-old wearing it. What we're saying is that those girls will never be allowed to feel the wind in their hair in England's capital city in 2025. Is that compassionate? Is that kind? Or should the state act to stop that, let alone the fact that there are grown women who, probably through no choice of their own, dare we say, from experience in other countries, because when Afghanistan was ruled by the Taliban, they were all forced to wear this. Taliban left power, they all took them off. Taliban are back in power, they've all been forced to put them back on again, which tells you something about whether they're choosing to wear these garments. I think it's deeply barbaric. And I'll say one more thing. My old boss, Nadim Zahawi, the former Chancellor for the Tories, his great-uncle, 100 years ago in Baghdad, was a famous poet. 100 years ago in Baghdad was writing poems about how women should take off the veil and cast it aside as being backward. If you could say it in Baghdad in the 1920s, you should be able to say it in England in 2025.
And it comes back to, and of course it's such a, I'd love to know your thoughts on this morning, by the way. Text, calls, whatever, you know the way to do it. 0344 499 1000. It comes back, because I was reading about it, comes back that everybody jumps up and down. So all the liberal lefties go, this isn't fair, this is racist, you're being unfair. Other people will say, hold on a second, this is misogyny at its worst. Other people will say, you're in our country, start to behave, have the freedoms, enjoy the Western life. I think what I learnt yesterday about Jenrick is he's quite a clever man, weirdly. I won't say on air what we said off air, but I couldn't agree with you more. What I liked yesterday was that he was actually prepared to come out here and put himself in the firing line, and I don't see that. And I know, I said to him, for me, waiting 15 months for the Tories to speak, Nigel Farage has grabbed that void and has his finger on the pulse of the British public, and I completely believe that the Tory party have to, I'm afraid you won't like this, serve their penance, because I lay at their table that the... Can I say tossers on breakfast?
No, you just did.
Oh, it once, yeah. We have what we have simply because of how incompetent the Tories were at the end. That's the absolute truth, in my humble opinion. And I feel like the Tories have got to spend a few years in the wilderness. But he is a good man. Quite like him.
He's a very good man. He's very smart. He's very sound. And I think what I like in particular, as you say, is that he acknowledges that the things he had to do to get into the party and to get on was to have to conform and all the kind of hugger hoodie and all that sort of stuff, and realised that that wasn't working. Realised in particular when it comes to illegal immigration. He was the Home Office Minister tasked with fixing illegal immigration. Went to the Prime Minister, this was Rishi Sunak, and said, here's the plan, here's the things we're going to have to do. Rishi wasn't willing to do it because he didn't want to be called mean and nasty. So what did Jenrick do? He resigned. I think that's
one of the few that
really important. Give up the ministerial
Did your party miss a trick in electing Kemi Badenoch instead of Robert Jenrick?
Well, I voted for Robert Jenrick.
Did you see how politicians answer questions? 0344 499 1000. We'll go to a break with Craig. It's got you again. Grooming gangs. Morning, Craig.
Craig from Sheffield. You keep saying you can't understand why, as a society, we're not sickened by the rape gangs. I'll tell you why, John. You know why, but nobody dare say it. There's nowhere, and yes, we do agree that there's white rapists in this country and in every country where there's white people. Of course there's more white rapists. But what there isn't related white rapists, brother, father, cousins, all then targeting a different ethnicity. That purely belongs to Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. It's not just in the UK, it's in America. They're raping white American kids, white British kids, white European kids. It's across Europe. They will keep doing it. They will keep grooming them. They will keep raping them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Wednesday morning, Glory. JK in until 10 o'clock. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Do your old voice notes to Christian. He needs the work. Jez, if it was white males, it would never be covered up. Every one of them involved should be jailed when it comes to this disgusting grooming gang fiasco. Tina, the grooming gang scandal is a disgrace. People have been highlighting these atrocities, JK, for decades. Starmer and Carr know exactly what's going on and need to be removed from their positions immediately. Morning, Jez, says Natasha. The problem which is destroying this country and hence a lack of action is the grooming gangs. For the past 50 years, and this is a really important text, I think, Jay, politicians have told us that the worst sin is to be racist. By then they allow vast numbers of people from countries with completely incompatible cultures into this country willy-nilly, and people are too terrified to say anything for the fear of being labelled racist. Is this at the heart of why our society is crumbling? We need to be able to have these conversations without people jumping up and down, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely right. And look, for a very long time, the animating principle in this country was Christianity. Whether or not you believe in the big man in the sky or whatever, the ideas behind it were the things that created our society. One good thing to be said for Christianity, I would say amongst many, is that it was universalist. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short, if you're Jew or Greek, as Jesus would say, if you're a Christian, whatever else, everybody was treated the same. Doesn't matter about any of those factors. What matters was what was in your heart. Yep. What matters was the content of your character. And as we've gone away from that and back to this old world of tribalism and ethnicity and sectarianism and all these problems, is it any surprise that society is starting to fracture and to crumble? So, I mean, in my ideal world, we'd go back to that kind of Christian ethic where you treat everybody the same and treat them based on their actions. Is that too much to ask for?
No, I don't think it is. This has got you again. 0344 499 1000. Gary on the grooming gangs. Morning.
Morning, Jeremy. I love the way that Talk highlight these issues, and it's always good to keep these things. But the trouble is, Jeremy, is that the government is so untrustworthy that even when they are rushed or pushed into this inquiry, they chose to be economical with the truth. And I think the point of these inquiries and reviews is not actually to do something, but to be seen to be trying to do something rather than taking action. I mean, quite honestly, Jeremy, I think this is an absolute disgrace of what the government's doing. And, quite honestly, if this was in the private sector, I mean, these people would be fired. But love your show, Jeremy. Keep it going. Thank you.
Top man. Morning, JK and JP. Grooming gangs, anti-Semitism, crime, free speech, illegal migration, the list goes on. This government are pitifully and woefully, totally and utterly incapable of doing anything for us, the British people. They are drunk on power. They enjoy the trappings and lifestyle of government, but they don't do what work is needed. Never thought I'd say this. Ready? John in Carmarthen is going to get the camera on James Price, please. If you could zoom in on James Price. Never, said John from Carmarthen, did I think I would say, I think I'm beginning to miss the bloody awful dreadful Tory party. Look at the smile on JP's, that's one for you. Oh my God, right, listen, talking about the Tories, Boris, good morning everybody, had to go to the COVID inquiry yesterday, didn't brush my hair. Boris Johnson yesterday was hauled before the COVID inquiry. Now this is a bit personal to me. And you know this, I spent a lot of time on air supporting, promoting and sticking up for Boris Johnson. I remember saying things like, you're into a job you've been born to, 3 months in they come to you and say, right, it's not going particularly well, you can either close the country down or you're going to kill 250,000 people. I don't believe that anybody at that moment when I said that would have not felt exactly the same. The scientific advice, he always based it on that. Whitty was on yesterday, wasn't he, going, oh, I think it was wrong. Well, you were supposed to be the scientist. But at the COVID inquiry yesterday, Boris Johnson said, I really regret closing schools. And there's no doubt that when that happened, it had a massively negative impact on a whole generation, didn't it?
Yeah, very, very much so. And the consequences we're still living with. Some people call them ghost children, which I don't like because they're flesh and blood. These are people who still haven't really gone back to school properly, kind of disappeared off into the system, let alone all the developmental challenges for younger children, let alone all the learning, all the rest of it. So I was a special advisor in the Department for Education when the Omicron wave hit, right? When we almost sent into a fourth lockdown. I won't tell you how it was that the fourth lockdown was prevented, or what leaks or who did the leaking, but you're very welcome, everybody. And this was because we realised that this stuff wasn't as dangerous, especially in the Omicron wave. But even then, some of the fights that we had in that department to try and keep schools open, because I'm going to be very partisan here, the trade unions wanted them shut because the union members often wanted to stay at home. And we lost so many fights, including things like, although we did manage to keep those schools open in that last bit there, they wanted, and they made for a little while, all children have to wear masks all day long, even when sat down at their desks learning. And there were officials and the scientists and all these people, I hate the blob and I go on about how the blob of the civil service is the big problem. They called this a zero-cost intervention. Zero cost to make primary school age children wear masks all day long in school. Now, I did actually get the Department for Education to do a study into this that says actually exactly as you say, it actually has all these negative consequences for them, especially kids with anxiety and things like that. It stops them learning as well, it stops them feeling as good and all the rest of it, because of course it would. And I'm not sure that the science says that those masks did a huge amount of good anyway in the end. But we all collectively lost our minds about this, and although no one's paying much attention to this COVID inquiry, Sweden managed to do theirs and finish it off years ago. I hope that we can learn some lessons in time for the next pandemic, because I'm sorry to ruin everyone's morning again, there will be another one, and I hope it won't be as bad, but it may well be.
I'm not allowed to show him. Bless her, Julia, she was, because I wasn't on air at the time, and this station really was on the front foot for dealing with this, and they did such a great job. And Julia said yesterday about the Johnson thing just leaves so many people angry. And in hindsight, she's absolutely right. I remember just thinking at the time, what an impossible job. But there's no doubt it has affected so many, many people. Right, it's been quite a serious 50 minutes. I'm going to say it's a bit of fun. Prince Andrew, where do you... I mean, honest to God, funny. Told the story yesterday. My parents, God bless them, are both dead, but they lived in a house, and up the road there was a road called Andrews Close. And when this is true, when this first came out, the local villagers wanted it renamed. He has to go. But you know, Matt Wilkinson from The Sun said to me the other day, "Where to? What are you going to do with him? You're going to banish him? Where are you going to send him?"
Yeah, well, I think in the Daily Telegraph or somewhere it was suggesting one of the things he could do was do "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here."
No, it's not going to work, trust me. It's not going to work. Listen, no, let's not talk about "I'm a Celebrity" out of here, because people keep saying, you should go on that, Jez.
I think you'd be great at that. Be you versus Prince Andrew in the final two.
The thing about him is, and this is very outspoken, but there we go. He has always been an entitled git. He has always had... he just doesn't get it. He's a bit like Starmer with politics. He thinks he's right, and it's come back to bite him on the backside. He's now holed up in Royal Lodge, which is a 31-bedroom mansion set in 15 acres, and I can tell you categorically that the clamour now will be for him to be thrown out of there. I can tell you categorically, and people don't agree with me, let me know what you think. I bet you she'll turn when the money comes out and sell her story to a US network. Fergie will. 1 million. I'll have that bet with anybody. What do you do with him, though? Prince William, when he becomes king and he's just moving into a house up the road with his kids to start again after all the trauma of where they lived with the cancer with Kate and everything, he will strip him beyond strip him and have him out. I think he's a national disgrace, but what do you do with him? They're now saying he's mentally affected. Oh, right, let's not forget the girls you went and visited then on Epstein Island then, yeah?
Right, I think when someone has this level of shame brought upon themselves, I think back to the 1960s and the Profumo affair. I think what Profumo did was he voluntarily took away himself from the Privy Council to stop being a right honourable and all these things. I think I'm right in saying he spent the rest of his life cleaning toilets up somewhere, as a janitor somewhere, as a kind of penance for his life.
Andrew as a janitor.
I think that would be a way to start to absolve yourself of your sins and have that level of humility and go and live a sort of monk-like existence.
Oh, sorry, hold on a minute. I've got to what? Like the rim? Terrible. These people. I've got to do my own... Ooh. Yeah, but there's a lot about the press in this country that winds the hell out of me, right? But there's an awful lot of good stuff that goes on. And you know, our sister newspaper, The Sun, right? This is on their front page every day. What I love is when they get the bit between their teeth on something that genuinely the majority of Britons go, how the hell is that entitled git still living in a 31-bedroom house when we are struggling to put food on the table and pay our bills? And I get that, and this ain't going away for him. Not at all. We're going to go to an ad break, then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about Christmas, OK? Because in Birmingham, ladies and gentlemen, this is brilliant. If you're waking up this morning, in Birmingham, mate, we've put up the Christmas lights. We've switched them on. I know we haven't collected your rubbish for about 16 years. And there's rats the size of kits running across the streets. But at least you can look at the lights and go, Happy Christmas. Back in 3.
It's devastating to think that these people who've been through what they've been through are now quitting the panel because they feel they're being let down. You know, they've talked about controlling and condescending language used towards them. They've talked about the fact that it's, political interference and skullduggery. Well, we can't go on like this. We need that proper inquiry. We need a national statutory judge-led inquiry with all the bells and whistles enabled to hold people to account properly. I mean, we even had debate about whether the councils who are being questioned in this place should have the right to determine what goes on and have a hand in governing such inquiries.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, 5 to 7, JK on Morning Glory with James Price. Couple of quick stories before you head off. Oh, it's the country. Page 10 of The Sun. David Beckham, look at this. Is a country gent, ladies and gentlemen. He's got the dogs, the sticks. He's got you are Talk's country gent, aren't you?
I've certainly been called a lot worse than that.
Yes,
This is fantastic. I think as more people realise what London is turning into under Sadiq, they'll be doing this. I'll be heading off next year, God willing.
What to the country?
I offer accepted on a house. Don't want to jinx it, but if we can get it all sorted, you can come and stay in my outhouses.
Have you got outhouses?
I plan on getting some.
How utterly obscenely brilliant. And they'll say things like, what are your neighbours like? And you just go, well, I don't know them. It's too far away. A lot of people take the mickey out of David Beckham. I salute this man. From absolutely nothing, he's made a fortune. He does an awful lot of good. I like the bloke. I think it's brilliant. And if you... see, look at his outfit. You look the part. We need to get you a cane for Christmas. Talking of which, ladies and gentlemen, that was a... brilliant segue. Today is the story on Telegraph, page 3, that Birmingham City Council have put their Christmas tree up. They put it up. This is a council that hasn't collected the rubbish for the past however many months, that there are rats the size of cats running across and people's lives are in the toilet, right? What is the obsession with Christmas? We haven't had Halloween yet.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I was in the supermarket the other day and we walked down an aisle and there were mince pies everywhere.
I love it.
I love a mince pie, but in October...
Why do they? Oh, now you've got me, Christian. Now this is going to go for the morning. Why is it called a mince pie?
Mince meat.
I know, but mince meat is meat, isn't it? There's no meat. Granny's dead again, but my mother used to make great... I love mince pies. I could eat mince pies from now to the end of time. Christian went shopping the other day. We didn't go shopping. He was sent shopping by his wife. She's quite a controlling woman. And this is what he discovered. This is John Lewis. Look at this already. Look. Haven't had Halloween. The Christmas shop. Jeez. It's like a thing from that movie, isn't it? Macaulay Culkin, when he put up... Look at it. It is true. I went to a garden centre the other day, because here's a trick if you've got young kids and you're trying to buy time on a Sunday to get the wife impressed so you can watch the football in the afternoon. Take them to the garden centre, wander around and then put them in front of the fish and they'll go like that. For hours. Trees everywhere, decorations everywhere, madness, right?
This is absolutely wild. And the one in Birmingham, it does look quite nice, I suppose, because in the picture in the Daily Telegraph...
Sorry, did you say Birmingham looks quite nice?
Well, in this picture, because you can't see all of the litter that's been left in the streets for months and months and months, nor can you see all the racists saying that the Jews aren't welcome anymore, which has also been happening in Birmingham,
Tel Aviv,
Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and Aston Villa. Nor can you see the fact that they, whilst taking down the Union Jack and St George's crosses that have been put up everywhere, they bathed City Hall in the lights of the colours of the flag of Pakistan for Pakistan's Independence Day.
You see, I tried to take it away from the misery that is our lives by talking about Christmas, and you brought it back.
I'm the Grinch.
No, you're not. You're off to the country. We love having JP here on Morning Glory. So mince pies, you're a fan?
Big fan. The old man makes them. They're excellent. I'll bring you some at Christmas.
Oh my God! Christian gang through the glass fan of mince pies. Yeah, Damien. Damien, no, I'm not having a mince pie.
Shame.
No, but he drinks
whiskey.
whiskey.
Why do you hate our country?
Because he drinks whiskey. Get out of our country, you heathen man. What do you like about Christmas? Do you think this madness of early morning, the lights and all this is too soon? I don't know. What do you like? What do you hate about Christmas? What do you like or hate about the country? What do you like about Christmas? What's the best?
Christmas pudding is the one for me. My uncle makes it. He started making it about now and soaks the raisins in the booze for months and months.
Your uncle needs to get a job, mate. If he's soaking his fruit in, dipping it anyway, never mind. James Price, thank you so much indeed. Always a pleasure. Absolutely great to have you on. So much to talk about. Grooming gangs inquiry chaos. 1.9 million foreign citizens on benefits. The country's on its backside. Prince Andrew's going to head off. David Beckham's living in the country, and mince pies ready on the menu. 0344 499 1000. That is the number. Join us in 3 for more on Morning Glory. In the news at 7 is next, my friends.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People smuggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, when more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe. The real
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. Just gone 7 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. Like you give a damn. This is JK on Morning Glory live across the UK on the home of free speech and common sense. You lucky people. I hope you're okay. I hope you're getting going. I mean, we've been here since 5, but don't you worry about it. So much in the news today. Your involvement as ever, please, on the show. 0344 499 1000. That's the number. You can send a voice note. You can do a text message, 87222. I am paid to provide you with information. I'm sure this will make you all go, wow, the inflation figures have just been released. Shocking news. They're still at 3.8%. It's not going to change the cereal you eat for breakfast or the journey you take to work, but I'm paid to share that information with you. Loads going on the news today, of course. Grooming gangs inquiry in chaos. That on the front of all the newspapers. Is it just a hatchet job by the Labour Party? 3 victims have already walked out. The chairman wants nothing to do with it. We demand, surely as a nation, that our kids are safe and that those who perpetrate violence against them are brought to justice. Does the government feel the same? Rachel Thieves is apparently going to basically tax all of us a lot of money, which wouldn't make you feel happy, but when you realise that it's going to pay for people who don't work and are taking the mickey, that sort of winds everybody up. You are also waking up to the news that 1.9 million foreign citizens are claiming UK benefits. 1.9 million people have come to this country illegally or have just arrived in this country. They don't work, they don't want to be integrated, they just want the benefits. So as you are driving to work right now or getting the kids ready to get in the car to do the school run before you go to work, why are you bothering? Why don't you just stay at home and claim benefits? That makes sense. And if you thought that wasn't bad enough, Christmas is coming. This is ridiculous. In Birmingham, the city council, right, we can't sort out the bin crisis, bins everywhere. But Christmas is coming and we've put our Christmas tree up. I want to know from you, wherever you are, the length and breadth of this fine nation. Has Christmas come too early for you? Have you seen trees, decorations? What do you like about Christmas? What do you hate about Christmas? I'm not doing the Santa joke. 0344 4 it only comes... Never mind. 0344 499 1000. We say a very good morning. I'm very excited about this. I've never spoken to this lady before. She's a regular. Joanna Bell, political commentator. Joanna Bell, good morning. Where are we calling...
You have spoken to me before.
All right, don't start being scary. Where are we calling you, by the way? Where are you?
I'm in my office. Everybody keeps saying it's a storeroom. It's not a storeroom.
Well, you need... darling, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you need to declutter before you ring me again. Declutter, Joanna Bell.
You can come right to my office and do it, but yeah, I can't work on a laptop, so I would do it from my room, but I find it really difficult to look into a laptop, so I just do it from my PC.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, but we need to tidy up a bit. It's a disgrace, you know it is. But anyway, welcome to the show. I'm jesting. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, Joanna, this morning. So much to talk about, so many opinions already. The number one news story is in every newspaper. The Daily Mail front page, grooming gangs inquiry in chaos. We're waking up to the story that now it's 3 victims who want nothing to do with an inquiry they believe will be a cover-up. The chairman wants nothing to do with it. And there's this sort of begrudging attitude from the Labour Party that seems to be, well, we've sort of been pushed into doing this. We're not really, you know, very keen to do it. And I don't think, I don't know what you do, that the British people will accept this. I think that we demand a totally transparent, very thorough look at what is, without any shadow of a doubt, a disgrace to us as a country, isn't it?
100%. I mean, the corruption extends into the police, the social services, and the local government, which happens to be Labour. So Jess Phillips is just a hypocrite. She says she wants to stop it, but she doesn't do anything apart from be part of the cover-up. I mean, yesterday we saw her call one of the grooming victims a liar. And, you know, she's meant to be the Minister for Safeguarding. And, you know, she's just exposing young girls to danger and abuse, and she should resign or be sacked.
She would deny that she's doing a cover-up, and let me be perfectly honest, because we have to do this in the correct way. Labour will say, we're going to run this. The Tories are sniping from the background, Reform are having their say. I just go beyond it, and I said it at 6, and I'll say it every single time about this, because it's genuinely what I feel as a father. I don't give a damn about the colour of your skin, your religion, your creed, or where you come from. If we as a society, Joanna, cannot rinse this inquiry to the point where we show the world that abuse of our children should never be covered up in whatever institutions, the police, local authorities, the NHS, politicians locally and nationally, I fear that they're trying to downplay this because they probably know this has gone on for years, is still going on, and probably goes as high as there is. I think the British public, who have woken up to their voice matters, are going to absolutely insist and demand, and so we should, because I think it's an absolute stain on our society by a mile, mate.
Massively. I mean, a Hercules is needed to clean out the Augean stables, as it were. And, you know, Sadiq Khan, he says he doesn't know about it. It goes as far as to London, to Scotland. You know, apparently he had knowledge that this was going on in London hotels. And so, you know, the cover-up is just, it's so huge that, you know, it's going to be far worse for them if they don't do this inquiry. And, you know, these young girls need justice.
This was, you're looking at pictures, actually, just if I can jump in there a sec, Joan. So you're looking at pictures of Keir Starmer. We've got a clip of him talking about the grooming gang inquiry, which probably sums up entirely where we're at. Have a listen. Keir Starmer.
This inquiry, in direct answer to your question, must go where the evidence takes it, and I'll be absolutely clear about that. And if that's questions of ethnicity, that's questions of the role of public officials, if it's questions of assumptions that were made that shouldn't have been made, all of that needs to be uncovered. No stone will be left unturned here.
Why is it I don't believe a bleeding word he says, Joanna? Because you just think he's just said that to an interview. He says it's like he's in the auditioning for The Sound of Music, doesn't he? I just don't buy it.
Of course, no stone will go uncovered. I mean, who is he fooling? Of course, they're trying to cover it up massively because they're going to have to pay out a lot of money. And they've, barely any people have been convicted for what they've done to these girls, and they're letting people out of prison. They're not even convicting people for rape. So it's like, what's the point in the Labour government at all? They're just lying through their teeth. They have no intention of finding out the truth. They're trying to water it down by including other abuse crimes, and they really don't want the heat on the Pakistani grooming gangs, because I mean, maybe it's cynical of me, but perhaps they don't want to lose that boat.
Many people have said that, and I can't disagree with this. Love to know what you think of the grooming gangs horror. And my friends, 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Good morning, Glory. 7:10. Joanna Bell, lovely to have you. I agree with you about that, and I don't even make it political. We know what Starmer is. We know what Sadiq Khan is. We know how completely, I think, incompetent and just lacking in any political nous those two are. But this goes back years, and what fears me is not only does it go back years, it's still carrying on. I just don't understand as a father. I don't understand why every single person doesn't stand up and go, this is abhorrent, we're going to get an answer. Let's talk about the Labour Party in a bit more detail, Joanna. Richard III, Rachel Thieves, whatever you want to call her, Rachel from accounts. Basically, she's going to target tax increases on middle-class people. Now, GPs, lawyers, solicitors. I'm 60 years of age, so I said during the election campaign, Labour's only got one policy. Essentially, at the end of the day, when they've finished paying all their union buddies and done everything they think is right for every minority group, they'll turn to everybody and increase tax, because that's how they do it, and then they'll bankrupt the country and be voted out. They're just following their blueprint, aren't they?
Of course. I mean, they're not targeting the wealthy. They're targeting hard working middle-class people. And, the national debt is 100% as high as the GDP. That's all the income of the entire country. And, the cost of servicing that debt, is unaffordable. The country is borrowing more to pay for the welfare bill. And, since lockdown, people are not working. They've gotten into the habit of not working. So it's just becoming more and more. How do you pay for it? They're paying for hotels for asylum seekers. And, in Greece, they stopped processing asylum claims. And that has actually stopped people from entering the country. And it's been very, very successful. So perhaps in Britain, they need to stop processing the asylum claims.
In Britain, we could do, again, maybe I'm idealistic, maybe I'm naive, maybe the age thing's getting to my brain, but I don't understand why everything's so bloody difficult. I don't understand why you cannot say, look, we've done right in the past, we've always done the right thing, but right now we're skint. We can't afford the interest on our debt. So the truth is, if we're going to allow unvetted people into our country willy-nilly, we need to look at not only how we stop them, but why they do it. They come here, right, because the pull to the United Kingdom is greater than any country in the world. We wipe the backsides of everybody, and the difference is now the British public are wise to it. Now the British public who are being squeezed are going, hold on a minute, I ain't far right and I ain't racist, but I'm at the back of the queue and I'm paying for this. This isn't right. In terms of stopping it, you can all walk around going, ooh, just send the Royal Navy. I've said it till I'm blue in the face. Into the Channel, buy the biggest liner you can find, recondition it, train 2,000 people to be a crack immigration team. Every single person gets put on the big boat. They get processed by professionals. If you are legal, come to our country, bring something to our country, we welcome you with open arms. If you hasn't, you're going to go to a detention centre, which isn't going to be particularly nice, because trust me, the message will get back pretty quickly that we're not a soft touch, because we are a soft touch, Joanna. That's why people keep coming.
That's it. And I just want to add, Jeremy, when I was at the Labour Party, I spoke to a gentleman from the refugee housing pathways, and he looked like a total crusty, so I was thinking he's going to say, oh, we need to look after these immigrants, and he actually said the majority of them are economic migrants. They're not from war-torn countries. They're coming over here to bleed Britain dry. And that's the truth of it. They're not Afghan women who are being persecuted in their own country. They are economic migrants who have heard that Britain is, you know, a free-for-all. And that's what it is.
I agree, and again, I keep bringing back to the people that watch and listen to this station, the people that I have great faith in the United Kingdom, have had enough, really, for being duped, taken advantage of. And for me, politicians like Starmer, they're not going to survive by simply now saying, you're all far-right thugs, as he did after those riots in Southport. It's beyond that now. We can have the debates about flags and poppies, but essentially, this country is teetering financially. It'll be very soon, Rachel thinks they'll have to go to the IMF and beg for a loan and the interest rates will go up. Nothing's working financially, and thus I think people go, hold on a minute, this isn't right. I just don't think they can do the maths. I just think they're appalling. 7:15 on Morning Glory. Here's a main story. Yesterday, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary, came onto a brand new feature on Morning Glory that many of the team, trying to sound enthusiastic, had spent a long time working out. He answers questions on the phone, so they called it Ring Rob. It's great. He said this in response to a question about the burqa, and I'll have your take on this. This is Robert Jenrick yesterday on Ring Rob.
Just a thought. Instead of banning Maccabee, how about banning the burqa and halal meat?
Right. Well, I probably would ban the burqa. But then you've also seen Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, say in the last week that this is something that she's going to pursue. So I think there's definitely a strong argument for it. Look, there are basic values in this country, and we should stand up and defend them. And where you're seeing them fraying at the edges or frankly being completely destroyed, whether it's Sharia courts or wearing of the burqa, these are issues we're going to have to confront if we want to build the kind of society that we want to hand on to our kids and grandkids.
Joan, I got a text which I want to read out because it's very relevant, because this is one of those emotive subjects. It says from Stuart Brown, good morning, Jez. I'm watching on YouTube this morning from Morocco. And over here, women and young girls are free to choose whether a headscarf or not suits and applies to them. If that works here, why can't that be the same in the United Kingdom? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't think the government should interfere with what people wear. I mean, it's a slippery slope. I mean, I think it's harmless. What they should be banning, the practices they should be banning are hate preachers and dangerous people and violent political Islamists, which they don't seem to ban. You go down to Speaker's Corner, on a Sunday, and they're just spouting hate. And that's what they should ban. I mean, it's harmless to wear a burqa. It doesn't really affect anybody. Why is Rob Jenrick focusing on that when he should be focusing on other things like the economy or, stopping the Islamists in this country from indoctrinating
He would say that one of the biggest problems with our country right now is that we have people coming to this country who will not integrate. There's a fine line, you're right, between respecting people's traditions, their religious beliefs and how they want to do it, and also becoming an enclave that doesn't in any way integrate itself to the United Kingdom. This is an emotive subject. You could say that Robert Jenrick speaks for many. You can say that he's now at odds with his party. I think he's one of the more skilled Tory politicians, but that's his view. You would disagree with that. It's good. We can't all agree with everybody all the bleeding time. It'd be boring, wouldn't it? Do you know, last night, we haven't done this yet this morning, last night the sentencing bill was brought into the Commons, and we spoke yesterday with Sarah Pochin from Reform. There were lots of things. Basically, this bill last night, Labour's idea of ending overcrowded prisons, is to let people out sooner. Not to build more prisons or make people actually go through and deal with the sentence that they've got. No, we'll just let them out earlier. They raised some queries, the Tory party and Reform, bless them, but it was voted through. Isn't that amazing that the elected government go, yeah, we'll just let more people out, criminals, just let them out. That'll give us a bit of space to put more in, then we'll let more out. What is wrong with these people?
It's ridiculous. And I'd like to point out that the synagogue killer, he was out on bail for rape.
Yeah.
And nobody who is charged with rape should be out on bail. They could potentially, what happened at the synagogue could cause more harm to people.
Yes.
So they shouldn't be lenient at all. They should be more harsher and give more harsher sentence to people who commit sex abuse crimes. You know, they need to build more prisons if they don't have room. But, you know, they're putting people away for, you know, minor offences and not taking, you know, a hard stance on people who commit sex abuse crimes. And that's ridiculous. You know, if that synagogue had been put on remand, those people at the synagogue would still be alive.
Completely agree, and I never understood in any which way how if you say to somebody, you're going to prison for 5 years, that's the crime, that's the punishment for the crime. Oh, we'll let you out. Just do 30%, and now we're going to say just do 60%. You've started a debate. Nick on the burqa, good morning.
Hi, Jez, Nick from Solihull. You're on doing an article now about ban the burqa with that chap from the Tories, which is good. Because if we don't come into line with the rest of Europe, which is a few things we should come in line with, is that a lot more would migrate over or live over here, but where they can cover their women up and children and young girls. So we've got to come in line and to give it literally say no. But I've said this before, but I don't think it's been on air. OK, thanks, mate. Bye.
Thank you very much indeed. What do you say to that? What's your response to Nick on the burqa? Because you were quite strong. You disagree with Jenrick, Joanna?
I mean, I just think, you know, OK, it is, you know, that's their culture. You know, are you going to tell a nun she's not allowed to wear a habit? Or where does it end? Do you tell a girl she's not allowed to wear a short skirt or a low-cut top? You know, it's just, I just think it's really... It's a slippery slope when the government interferes with dress. And, you know, it's always women that are the ones that have to curtail their dress. And I don't think that... But
there is the other argument that they're being forced to cover up by a part of society that wants to control women, and does that sit with Western values? Listen, I'm open to all sides. That's what this is about, you know?
I don't know. Look, you know, I know that a lot of these girls, you know, it's part of their culture. They wear it. Maybe some are forced, but who knows, you know? Who knows whether they're forced or not? Yeah, and James Price, your former political advisor who you had on earlier, did say, you know, you see little girls wearing them under the age of 8. Yeah, it's weird, but I think that the country has bigger priorities right now, and the government shouldn't be wasting their time interfering on what people are wearing.
No, they should concentrate on the grooming gangs, but they don't seem to be able to do this. Now, I have loved speaking to you because I know you've got a sense of humour, so there is a text which I hope will make you smile, because we are in a world where you can't say anything. Mark in Selby's worried about you, and he's worried about your cat. Have you got a cat? Because the boys said, where's your cat? Have you got a white...
He wasn't meant to come in here.
Don't you worry, there's no problem with you bringing your white cat in. But anyway, Mark in Selby says, what's she thinking? She's speaking to you from a cupboard surrounded by cables and wires, and there's a poor pussy. He's worried about it. He's worried about the... There's a lot going on this morning, Joanna Bell, but listen...
Okay, maybe I need a spring clean. I'll have to get somebody in, but...
Yeah, I'm going to send somebody round. We'll do... It's like that hoarders thing. Don't worry, I'll clear it all out. You'll be brilliant. But thank you, on a serious note. Loved having you on this morning, and thank you for joining us on Morning Glory. Joanna Bell from a cupboard surrounded by wires and a white cat. 7:22, we're live across the UK. 0344 499 1000. I share your concerns, Mark in Selby. Listen, I'm off in 3 for a wee. See you in a minute.
became quite fearful, really, of describing what ethnicity our abusers were, and it should never get to that. The lady that was running the panel along with the Home Office, she was an ethnic minority ambassador, so I don't believe personally that she was ever pro-victims, pro-survivors in this case. Everyone that's on these panels are very biased. They're not impartial. I think it was a way to find out what survivors knew, what they were going to raise, and how they could cover it up in the future.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. It's Wednesday, you lucky people. 7:25. JK live across the UK. Talk is, of course, the home of free speech and common sense. Thanks for tuning in, because when you do tune in, it gives us so much more time to work out what the hell is coming next. H says, why do people do that to me? Joanna Bell is completely wrong. The burqa is not harmless. It is used in a misogynistic way against Muslim women. This was the debate started by Robert Jenrick on the show yesterday on his new feature, Ring Rob. Well, it's not going to be called Call Chris, is it, to be fair? But anyway, he was on and he says they should ban the burqa. Jez, Joanna is wrong that the burqa is harmless. Being completely covered with face not visible is an issue, a security and safety issue. It's a tool of female repression, and many women who wear it don't want to but are forced to. Nicola's in Norfolk. Hello to Dave, I think in Bristol. Morning, Jez. The burqa is not harmless. Joanna Bell is wrong. There are security and identity risks, and we have some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen, on a Wednesday morning. I love this. Forget the fact that Christmas trees are up in Birmingham. Forget the fact that this country is on its backside. Linda has just broken this news. Labour is planning to ban the pumpkin, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, ahead of Halloween's on Friday. She says, I've just finished carving the English flag and a Union Jack into my pumpkins, and I'm now worriedly sat by the front door waiting for the police to arrive. Can you imagine? That's the sort of crap, isn't it, that would happen in this country. We're going to ban the pumpkins. We'll go to Staffordshire, which is brave. Vernon, good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory. How are you?
Greetings, JK. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. I'm in a hurry. What's going on? Come on, crack on. Time is money.
OK, Jeremy, this national inquiry into the grooming scandal will never take place. No. It's never going to happen. The reality of it is it goes from the top to the very bottom. This involves law enforcement. This involves politicians. It won't happen, Jeremy. It will not happen. That's the first thing. The second thing, Jeremy, which I think is a huge undercurrent that needs to be discussed, my football club, Aston Villa, a local Pakistan-born MP, he put together a petition to ban football fans from Israel coming to the game. That's now succeeded. The embarrassment of the country is that even Maccabi Tel Aviv, they can't trust the UK police force to keep their fans safe, so they're not allocating the tickets. When are we going to address this thing in the room, Jeremy? When there is a problem with a certain community, they protest. They protest and they protest. It's the religion of peace, Jeremy. The teacher from Batley is still in hiding, Jeremy. Football fans are no longer able to go to a game of football in my home city of Birmingham because they're not safe.
Listen, sectarianism is spreading across this country. I completely agree with you about the football. I talked about it yesterday. Hooliganism in football, unfortunately, is prevalent in all sorts of countries and all sorts of games. The minute the safety committee in Birmingham decided that Israeli fans from Maccabi Tel Aviv were so heinous that they shouldn't be allowed to come to Aston Villa to Birmingham, simply on the basis of, well, Ayub Khan is the local independent MP who stood and won his seat on the ticket of Gaza. I mean, even Lisa Nandy, the culture secretary, announced yesterday in the Commons that she thought he was anti-Semitic. I will repeat something I say again. There are all parts of all sorts of communities that wind me up. I completely agree with you, but it goes further to me. It's ingrained in us, rightly, that, you know, we should treat people the same. Explain to me then why all the people who quite rightly describe racism as fundamentally wrong, and I'm in that camp, don't see anti-Semitism in the same way. I think it's disgraceful. I think the Jewish community in this country are treated appallingly, and I don't care who that upsets. Vernon, thank you very much indeed. Oh, Christmas in Birmingham, Chris says, I thought it would be cancelled because it might have upset the pro-Palestinian bunch. Great. Snowy. Oh, right, is that some sort of take? Is it to get... This is on the story in Birmingham, by the way. The Christmas lights have gone up. Great stuff, as always. Reg from Southampton. Birmingham putting up their Christmas tree already, maybe to counter the optics of their recent anti-Semitism. They are more transparent than a window with no glass in it. Good morning to Lee. Jez, I was always told mince pies are so called as it's minced fruit in them. They call it a mince pie. I was told Christmas add-on off last night. Also, Christmas decoration garden centre since August, says Alison. Christmas decoration. I do want a mince pie. I'm hungry. 7:30, 0344 like you would believe this morning. There's all sorts of stories going on in the newspapers today that nearly 1.9 million foreign citizens are claiming UK benefits. And by the way, 24.7 million or 23.7 million people in this country are claiming some sort of benefit. Just us four then that aren't then, yeah? OK. Good morning to Robert Bates, a research director at the Centre for Migration Control. Robert, how are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Thanks for having me.
Well, I say, well, we're speaking to you is a bit better than Joanna Bell's, although you need to hang a couple of coats on that rack behind you, don't you? Good morning, sir. Can we talk about this figure? Because this is in most of the newspapers this morning. 1.9 million foreign citizens claiming UK benefits. I've long, and this is genuinely true, moaned, some people don't like it, about huge numbers of people that seem to be on benefits in this country. I was brought up, I'm 60, to think that it was a system that would help those who can't help themselves. Sadly, and I don't care if it's unpopular, it seems to have become a career choice for some. You know, I won't go to college, I won't go to work, I'll sign on. It was never meant to be that. And of course, when you have that sort of opinion, people will go, that's really unfair, you know, that everybody's mentally ill and disabled. I don't believe that. I think a large number of people are quite rightly on benefits of whatever kind. But I do think we've also bred a society of people who are finding loopholes and taking advantage. I don't think it's wrong to say that. When you bring in the foreign element, people quite rightly go, hold on a minute, I'm paying into this, and nearly 2 million foreign citizens have just arrived here. They're not working, giving anything back. They're just screwing us for money. That's the truth, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We have got our own welfare problem here, and it is quite a chronic one at this point. But I really don't think in any way that justifies us operating an immigration system that inflicts a huge burden on those that are paying tax, those British citizens that are paying tax. Because let's be clear, this 1.9 million figure that we're talking about, these aren't even citizens of this country. These are individuals hold the passport of another nation. They are not yet British nationals. So I think when you realise that we're spending at least £10 billion every single year just on universal credit for those individuals who we're always told, of course, are coming here, they're going to be a huge economic boon. Without migration, the country would be collapsing. These are high-skilled doctors and engineers. And then you see figures like this, 1.9 million. You actually realise that what we've operated and what we've created for ourselves here is a ridiculous border policy that, far from actually building up Britain, is inflicting another millstone around the neck of the body populace. And this is a situation now that we've got the Boris wave, the so-called Boris wave, those millions of people that arrived under Boris Johnson's government who, from the beginning of next year, will begin qualifying for indefinite leave to remain and benefits themselves. So this is a problem that, unless we tackle it now, is only going to keep getting worse and worse. And, you know, you do wonder why the country is in somewhat of the state that it is in when you see that, you know, billions of pounds every single year, all this talk of a black hole. Well, in a way, you could solve it with a stroke of a pen if you're just prepared to be a bit nasty and say, no, sorry, you're not a citizen of this country. We're not going to support you.
Well, it's really interesting, and I completely am with you, and fair play to the Centre for Migration Control. It doesn't make fiscal sense. It doesn't make security sense. It doesn't make moral sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to say to people, right, just seriously come here, we won't vet you. You can drop your passport on the sea. And for all the wets this morning, by the way, they're not coming from war-torn countries, they're coming from France. And I would suspect that a 4-star hotel is a bit more preferable than a beach tent in France. Is awful anyway, but they probably want to... The truth is, we're too soft. If you sit down and you say to people, we're skint, but we're going to spend money We're going to give money to people who aren't British citizens, who we don't know who they are, who are never going to work, who aren't part of our society. Other countries would go, sorry, have you lost the plot? I went to work in America for 3 years on the old show, right? It took us 6 months to get a visa. We're just mad in this country, and I don't think it works anymore for politicians to go, well, that's a bit disgraceful, and it's a bit far right to say you can't just flood England with people who don't have to give anything back. What sort of people are you? Tell you what we are. We're skint. We're the indigenous population, and I hate to use that word, but I will do, just because it's the only word I can think of. The indigenous population, in my humble opinion, Robert, have had enough, haven't they?
Well, the population have enough. Unfortunately, the Labour Party don't seem to be. They seem to think this is a perfectly normal state of affairs. You see the backlash that the Reform Party got, or the Conservative Party got, when they actually try and talk about removing that status, this settled status, from individuals who are quite clearly just here on the take, are taking large figures from the British state. And they're almost saying, oh, well, they've made a life for themselves here. It's far too unkind to remove this status or to take away their benefits. And this is, I think, is a very particular curse that the British body politic have, this sort of awkwardness, this unwillingness to be slightly unpleasant to any individual. And I do think our kindness, in many ways, is going to be the death of us. We can't afford
I really agree with you. The sort of the way Britain was based, we would be the moral arbiters, the leaders in the world, has now been replaced by a population here going, hold on a second, as I say, I'm 28th in the queue and I'm paying my stamp, I'm doing everything right, and I can't get a look in. That's what's changed. I keep saying it, the silent majority have woken up. Robert, really happy to have you on. Thank you, by the way. Great work. The Centre for Migration Control are doing 7:36. We're live across the United Kingdom. It's all getting you this morning. Grooming gangs, the inquiry is in chaos. 3 victims have gone, we want nothing to do with this. It's going to be a bleeding cover-up. The chairman has said, I want nothing. Am I allowed to say chairman, or do I have to say chairperson? What does he identify? He might identify as a chair, I've no idea. Anyway, loads of you. Voice notes. Sally, on grooming gangs, go.
Good morning, Jeremy. What sort of people are running this country when Jess Phillips can stand at the dispatch box and so coldly deliver a speech about children who have been so dreadfully abused? Appalling. Sally, Lincolnshire.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, she is. Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10 o'clock this morning. Should be great. What is it? 22.8. JK on Morning Glory. 0344. I'm going to cough. 499 1000. Voice notes to Christian who needs the work. The thing that seems to have got you going, apart from the grooming gangs, is that Robert Jenrick yesterday, he came on and he said he thinks that if the Conservatives get into power, that's a big if, to be honest, isn't it, that they would ban the burqa. He would support banning of the burqa. Dan in Hartlepool says, I'd love to see how Starmer thinks digital ID will work if we don't ban the burqa. It's an interesting point. Jim in Warwickshire, good morning, Jim. He says, morning, Jez. Re burqas, I don't want to live in a country where people are told what they may or may not wear. However, as a fiscally conservative, old-school, dog-loving countryman, God, that's a mouthful, there is not a single aspect of my simple life that is not being threatened by this vile and disgusting government. Brian Goodwin, good morning. You cannot just ban one face covering. You need to ban all face coverings, which would include the face mask worn by those pro-Palestinian protesters. Joanna just hit the nail on the head. It's their culture. That's exactly what we want to stop. This is not an Islamic country, says Jane. That's an interesting one, isn't it? But you've got to find some sort of common ground. Gary Phyllis, not just burqas, all face coverings should be banned in public. If we are to be subject to facial recognition, how many people are saying this? Then how are you going to do that? Phil in Coventry. Morning, mate. Joanna Bell is wrong. The burqa covering needs banning. Your caller was right. All the immigrants will come here if the burqa is banned in Europe. No, I'm not doing that. 0344 419 1000 228. I feel like the next guest's cerebrally going to leave me hanging. Liam Halligan, I can't even say the word. Journalist and economist. How are you, sir? Good morning. Oh!
Sorry about that, Jeremy.
That's like the bloke. Have you ever seen that clip where the bloke goes, "Go away, children," and then he starts expleting? Liam Halligan was having a wee, ladies and gentlemen. Were you having a
I was actually just turning the coffee off.
Oh, well, that sort of deflated the fact that I built you up to be this incredibly...
There you go. Got my orange juice.
Oh, have you? That's not very good for you, then. Mate, good morning. Welcome. We've been talking about Rachel Thieves this morning and her... I mean, look, I'm old school, right? I know that the Labour Party essentially has one policy at the end of the day. You can dress it up how you want, but in the end, they just tax everybody who is aspirational or has built a business or has some savings, and that's what's going to happen very soon. I mean, the woman who said, "I'm not going to tax anybody," is now freely admitting she's going to tax everybody, including the middle classes, Liam.
She is. You'll remember after her budget last October, Jeremy, she said she literally said it many times, this is a once in a parliament budget. I'm not going to have to come back for more taxation. We're fixing the foundations of the economy, remember that, by raising taxes by 40 billion quid and raising borrowing by 30 billion quid. These are annual numbers. That's the biggest tax raising budget in over a quarter of a century. You've got to go all the way back to 1993. And yet it's clear now, she's been telling The Guardian, she's been telling Sky News that she is going to have to raise taxes again in the budget on November the 26th. I think that last October's budget was largely about taxing businesses, even though businesses then, surprise, surprise, pass those costs on to consumers in the shops. That's why we've had much, much higher inflation in this country than the other G7 economies, than the other advanced economies. We've seen that again today. Our inflation's at 3.8%. The Eurozone average is more like 2.5%. And I think this time, on November the 26th, she's going to come not so much for business, but for wealthier individuals with all kinds of taxation. But again, those taxes will end up being passed on to consumers in prices. That's just how the economy works. And we've seen, Jeremy, in the last few days, even though immigration's been such a big part of the news lately, with, I think, the Overton window on that shifting very much and it becoming much more to the fore, it's still the cost of living which is at the top of consumer concerns. The cost of living. Everyone knows you go into the supermarket these days and you buy a few bits and you've dropped 100 quid.
Absolutely.
And you've got very little to show for it.
My wife and I have this standing joke. I've got to grab a couple of things from the supermarket. You're right, 60, 80, 100 quid. I don't know how people cope. The thing for me is, and you're an economist, I opened when we spoke and said that, to me, the Labour Party's only ever had one theory, which is to promise their union mates pay rises, to promise to make everything fantastic, so they throw money out that they haven't gone. In the old days, they printed it and inflation was at 30%, or they go hand in hand, cap in hand to the IMF, which is going to happen. Do you think, a lot's been made about this woman, is she as incompetent as many people say, in your opinion, as an economist? Because to me, you just said, it's the biggest cock-up, really, financially. What was it? UK borrowing reached a 5-year high. In September, we borrowed another 20.2 billion quid. Does she know what she's doing, Liam? Genuinely.
Yeah, and out of that 20-odd billion quid that we borrowed in September alone, 20 billion quid, it's the equivalent of 3p on the basic rate of income tax. The income you'd get if you increased the basic rate of income tax by 3p, the income you'd get over the entire year. That's 20 billion quid. It's a huge amount of money. And of that 20 billion quid that we borrowed in the single month of September, the highest September borrowing on record, with the sole exception of the height of the COVID lockdown, when, of course, the economy was shut down, but the government was still spending like billio. Of that 20-odd billion quid she borrowed, 10 billion of that, roughly, was spent on interest on debt that the government already has.
So 120 billion pounds a year we're going to have to borrow to pay debt on the interest on the debts that we've got without moving the debt. So I ask you again, is she as rubbish at her job as people say? You're an economist, yes or no?
So the inheritance she got from the Tories was bad. Taxation was already at a 70-year high. You have to be fair and recognise that.
Yes.
We already had a serious fiscal problem when she came in. The Tories would say that's because of, again, the ridiculous lockdown that we had during COVID. But with the best will in the world, she's made the situation worse, because she did come in straight away. She pretended there was a black hole that there wasn't. Everybody could see the public finances. She did a massive bung to her mates in trade unions through big public sector pay increases. Getting together with Ed Miliband, she funded a load of very spurious net zero schemes, which are the reason why our energy costs in the UK are the highest in the developed world, which feeds into inflation. So she has made the situation worse. And now she's facing calls from economists, but also from business leaders, that if she tries to address the shortfall in the national accounts by simply raising taxes left, right and centre, she will hammer the economy, she will throttle growth, she will thwart enterprise and commerce. And that is what is happening. We've seen growth very sluggish in the UK. We've seen tax revenues very, very weak. She increased the capital gains tax rate last October. We got less capital gains tax, obviously, because people aren't selling things. She's stamp duty's very, very high.
There's not an awful...
housing market.
I'm always keen to try and help people get up in the morning and think, oh, do you know what? But there's not a lot of great news. And we had today, and we've got to be quick, but we had today, inflation stayed at 3.8%. I mean, you might say that I agree with you, she didn't inherit brilliance, but she's certainly taken us backwards. And I think the warning to almost everybody, I mean, you said it right. Last time was NI on small businesses. I've got mates who run restaurants. There's no point in them even having a business anymore. We've been sold a complete dummy on council tax, on energy prices, and she seems to be floundering, and we'll end up to our eyes in debt. And I think where we're at in this country is a seminal moment politically, because I think the British people are also going, so let me get this right. They've done that, then this lot have done that. That's why I think seismic change is on the way. I will forever play that clip of you not being there but turning the coffee machine off. Liam Halligan, thank you so much indeed for being on Morning Glory. Right, 0344 499 1000. You can make your call, you can send in your voice note. The thing that's getting you is grooming gangs. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. As the rape gang inquiry implodes on itself, I mean, everyone knew this was going to happen. The Labour Party's got no interest in it. They didn't want it. They've never wanted it. So they don't want to know the truth. These people, all these poor victims, all these kids, and all the people who are walking around today who were getting sexually assaulted and attacked. These people are just cannon fodder to the Labour Party. A small price to pay for diversity and inclusion. Great show, Jeremy.
he's loaded up the Oval with gold, and he'll do the same in his ballroom. And I think he'll slap his name on there from day one.
American taxpayers are not being asked to dip into their pockets for this. Not even Washington local taxes are paying for this. This is privately funded, right?
It is. He's getting donations at about $25 million a pop from some of the biggest U.S. tech companies. And so, yeah, for them, I mean, to get their names on a plaque somewhere and to build their relations with President Trump and keep them happy, for them, it's a pretty good investment. And, yeah, for the American people, too, yeah, no taxpayer funding.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory. It's Wednesday, you lucky people. JK till 10, 0344 499 1000. Jez says Cheryl Dyer. Talking about food bills, my supermarket bill was 270 quid last week. I did have a bottle of whiskey included because it was on offer, although I can't afford any more of that. It's absolutely true. So many of you wanting to be on. Thank you to Liam Halligan. We'll be playing that on loop. When you're coming on, make sure you're there. I'm delighted to welcome our next guest. On Drive, he's the only lefty we allow because the man talks common sense more than you will ever believe. We say very good morning to Matthew Torbett, Senior Fellow at the Centre for Social Justice.
They must have changed that. That's a role I've had for a little while, but I was on last to talk about homelessness, and that's the stuff I focus on at the CSJ. So.
You and I bonded. I remember you telling me about your upbringing, your dad, and the values that you had, and how homelessness was important to you. And let's just take that social justice angle for a change, and let's talk about this grooming gang inquiry. And I've said, Matty, to anybody and everybody, I don't care about the colour of your skin, your creed, your religion. I don't want to live in a society where 8- and 9-year-old girls, right, are being raped, physically abused. I think it is the worst stain on our society, and I have absolute fear, as do the 3 victims who have pulled out of this Labour-led inquiry already, as is the chairman who says I'm having nothing to do with it. I put to you, I know you've criticised the Labour Party, and quite rightly, but how is it that this country, our society, and this goes back beyond the Labour Party, by the way, are seemingly willing to cover up something that I think is up there with the post-Sutton scandal, if not beyond? I think it's revolting, man.
So I've read a bit of this morning and last night. What's the allegation of a cover-up? Because from what I can gather,
right, mate, come on, April. We're going to have a national inquiry. The Labour Party stand-up. Jess Phillips does just before recess in April and says, we're not having to do that. We're going to go. We're going to do local. Clamour. We need complete transparency. So you can't tell me there's any enthusiasm from the Labour government for this. No. Jess Phillips yesterday looked like and I know Jess Phillips. She looks like she doesn't even want to be there, man.
Yes, because I think, and that's, broadly, do they want this? No, maybe not. Some of us were saying in January this will result in a national inquiry they will give in. Yeah. Right? It's inevitable, and I think the right thing. I don't, however, give any credence to people like Chris Philp that want to make political hay out of this, who didn't mention anything to do with the grooming gangs until January of this year, like many others. So I think, and actually, for all my thoughts about them, the only people that had this in a manifesto at the last general election were Reform in some way or shape or form.
It's true.
Nobody cared about these girls.
It's called
a
contract reform. It's not called a manifesto.
Yes, I believe so.
So I dropped that in for you.
As of yesterday, I do think there is some element of truth to what Jess Phillips said, in that these group of, and I won't call them victims, I believe the term people prefer is survivors. These people have survived what they've gone through. Is that they aren't a homogenous group. And I've been fortunate enough to meet, many different people who've been through this in TV studios and otherwise, who do have different views on what they want. what type of person leading the inquiry they may or may not trust.
But we can accept that. But let's cut to the chase, which is the accusation against the Labour Party, right? The accusation against the Labour Party is you are too fearing of looking into this in too much depth, and I am not in any way saying that all of this is based on a certain ethnicity, but if you look at what happened in Rotherham, and the police said it took us 8 years because we didn't want to upset and raise racial tension, that was British Pakistani men. The absolute challenge to the Labour Party is you don't want to raise this. That's why you've got in Birmingham and cities like that, because the Muslim vote went down the independent route for people like Ayub Khan, and you know, Starmer, you will lose seats if you dig as deeply as the British public want you to dig. I think that's a perfectly justifiable criticism, don't you?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what these people are really thinking. I think you have to do the right thing, which is to dig into this. Where race plays a factor, and there was a purposeful target of white girls from particularly Asian Pakistani men, then that's totally relevant. I think the issue with this, from what I can gather from yesterday, is this current juncture is not being led by the government, it's being led by a charity to set up the inquiry.
Shouldn't it be led by the government?
Well, if you were a survivor, would you trust the government? That's what I would say.
Interesting
so
point.
I think if you have a charity...
Very interesting point.
Why would you trust...
Well, then why are they not transparent and say, it's not right for us because we'll be judged, we're doing this independently? Because it looks like they're marking their own homework. Most people that are... Look, she said, listen to Reg, I totally believe now that the reason why the people are pulling out of this investigation, survivors, victims, whatever... He said, I wouldn't be surprised they're having threats made against him. It's almost as if the mafia are controlling the rape gang situation. Now, people might say that's conspiratorial, but there are people in this country who cannot understand, and you're into civilisation, you're into behaving correctly. I don't see we're going to get dragged down in a political debate or a race debate. Girls are being still attacked and raped and molested, and that says nothing about the society that I want to live. I've got kids. It's vile.
That is why it is so key to ensure that the chair is absolutely appropriate. You may recall that when there was a wider inquiry following Jimmy Savile, and Theresa May appointed a chair for an independent inquiry into child abuse across the country, they got down to their fourth chair before it was Alexis Jay, because the appointees were either wrong, their friends and other people were scrutinised in the media, which in a way may seem a bit not right, but you have to have trust within this process, and if you don't, this is failing from the off.
But then the government needs to stand up and say, we cannot run this because of criticism from all sides. This is being done by an independent body, because there's confusion. And what builds, of course, and I've only got a minute, bless, I'd love to have you longer, but what builds is there isn't much trust in this government for what they say. We're not going to raise this. We're not going to... Well, you're doing all of it, aren't you, to be honest? So probably people think he's happy to sweep it under the carpet. There needs to be more transparency in whichever way, right?
But I think part of that comes from misreporting. And this isn't a dig at you or whoever else. I think there is politicians purposely conflating some idea of a cover-up that isn't actually quite there at this current juncture, in my view. The fact that I think Jess, to me yesterday, from what I know of Jess, was totally fed up, because I think she's trying to get this across, and yet she's got people like
I'd rather she was honest and told me she was fed up rather than read from a sheet, which made her look like she didn't give a damn. That's me being honest. You know, you're always... Well, how have we only had 3 minutes with him? He's too good. Will you come back?
Yes, always.
It's my northern left-wing friend, Matthew Talbot. On Morning Glory, almost 8 o'clock, we're live across the UK. Thank you for tuning in. 0344 499 1000. Sir James Cleverly, ex-Foreign Secretary, next. After the news at 8, which is next on Talk. Too many next, Jez.
We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built. The Universal Studios apparently going to build in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth for this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a $5 in a pot and you can go in and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning, my friends. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. This is Jeremy Kyle, live and exclusive on Talk. We're across the UK. It's the home of common sense and free speech. And as ever, we want you involved. You can call us right now. Damien is up for it, he tells me. 0344 499 1000. You can get your voice note on with Christian. It needs the work. Same number. Do it on WhatsApp, apparently. Or you can send us a text, 87222. Start your message with the word Talk. Just want to read a text before we go to the ex-Foreign Secretary, to James. Cleverly, Zarina says, Jez, I'm of the same generation as you. Growing up usually meant my dad went to work, my mum stayed at home, looked after the family. Salaries in those days were sufficient enough to provide for the family. Wages had been suppressed for far too long, and people, I'm afraid, have become reliant on benefits. I agree that people arriving for a free buck should not be rewarded on the backs of those of us who work hard and pay our taxes. Here's a point, she says. I believe I do not earn enough. However, I struggle on choosing not to take benefits despite educating myself to a postgraduate level. I can't get a job to match my skills. Zarina, I would expect, it sums up what a lot of people feel in this country if you're waking up this morning. And I've said it before, and I'll say it to any politician. We're at a seminal moment, right? We have, as a country, always said, let's do the right thing morally. Let's have a benefit system. Let's welcome people into our country. Let's lead the world. Let's spend money on foreign aid. But right now, peeps, you know this, right? We're skinned. We can't afford the interest on the debts we've got, and we can sit and listen to politicians say, we've got high taxation rates, we had COVID, or they left us with a black hole, or she can't add up, Rachel Thieves. But at the end of the day, I believe that the silent majority of British people are suddenly going, I've done my bit, and I feel like I'm 28th in the queue. And that is why people are angry. 0344 499 1000. I'm slightly happy to have my next guest on. I don't think we've ever spoken. Sir James Cleverly, former Foreign Secretary. A very good morning to you, sir. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
So much to talk to you about. I want to start with the subject that seems to be on the front of every newspaper, which is grooming gangs. I've pontificated for 2 hours, James, and I've said what I feel, which is that as a father, this isn't political to me. I think it's an absolute stain on our society that successive governments, and I don't just put this in Labour's hands, but I suspect they're dragging their heels, and society in general seems to be willing, able or prepared to cover up something as appalling as young girls being sexually abused. And I think it goes to local level. I think it goes in many institutions. I think it's an absolute disgrace to our country.
Jeremy, I think you're right. I think the fact that this has happened, and I think that the feeling of helplessness that a lot of these girls, because they were girls, they're young women now, but they were girls at the time, felt and still feel is something that we should take very, very seriously. And what we've got to see from the government is action that reassures these people. And the fact that we've now had 4 of those rape survivors, those rape gang survivors, resign from the panel, saying that they've lost confidence, saying that they don't think the government is moving with enough speed or energy, I think is really, really damaging. And my fear is that the government, the Labour government, is dragging its feet because it's worried that this inquiry will uncover Labour-run councils basically turning a blind eye to the regular, sadly, rape of young girls.
And I think that the thing is, I mean, I want to play a clip in a sec of Jess Phillips, because this sort of infuriates / amazes me. Jess Phillips spent and made a career out of talking about women's rights and protection of young girls. And seemingly yesterday in the Commons, it was an emergency question session on the grooming gang. She started off sort of reading and looking disinterested. And I was going to play this clip because she sort of got more and more angry. And I'm watching this thinking to myself, but I thought you had these people's best interests at heart. This is Jess Phillips, Sir James. Have a watch yesterday.
The conversation with Oldham is, do we not think it might be better for them just to take part in a statutory inquiry? That it is absolutely nothing to do with the idea that Oldham is telling me what to do. And the more people from that side, he can hold up his paper and have a smug face all he likes, but the fact of the matter is that there is absolutely no council in this country who will tell this inquiry where it can and cannot go. I have said that 1,000,000 times from this dispatch box, and yet the same thing gets peddled again and again.
James Cleverly, what do you make of that?
Well, it's quite clear that Jess Phillips is uncomfortable with the scrutiny of the House of Commons on this issue. Now, to her credit, she has campaigned on these issues for many, many, many years. But she is now in government, and it is her job to deal with these issues. And I suspect what she's finding is that dealing with issues is a lot harder than talking about issues from the backbenches. And the simple fact is she has, through her whole parliamentary career, painted herself as a champion of women's safety. Yep. She's now in a position to do something about women's safety, and the fact is the government is dragging her heels. I suspect that anger and frustration that clearly spilled over at the dispatch box is more to do with her anger and frustration of her own government, which she is then directed towards the people holding her to account. Look, I'm sure she wants to get this sorted. We want to get this sorted. But ultimately, the people she needs to shout at and harangue are members of her own government, not the people trying to actually get to the answers.
What do you say to the people who say that Labour's reason for dragging their heels? And Ayub Khan stood up in the Commons the other day from Birmingham and was talking about, the Aston Villa match and how he was called anti-Semitic by Lisa Nandy. Many people, James, are saying the reason Labour doesn't want to dig, if you look at Rotherham and it was British and Pakistani men, we're not saying that that's across the whole country, but are Labour frightened to dig too deeply, not just from a council point of view, but from a local point of view, and losing votes? Because, what was it, 4 or 5 independent MPs have returned? I mean, I'm 60 years of age. Are you telling me you win a seat in this country by standing for Gaza and you don't talk about local issues at all? Ludicrous. But maybe, as Sir Keir Starmer sees his popularity diminish and his vote disappearing, maybe that's a concern for him. Do you think that comes into the realms of interest for Labour at all?
Sadly, Jeremy, I think that is inevitable. I know a number of Labour MPs who are or have been in the recent past MPs for areas where we know that wide-scale rape of gang rape of young girls happened. And I know a number of instances where they've been actively dissuaded from raising these issues because it was thought to be politically counterproductive. Now, actually, in all those instances, those individuals have done the right thing and have raised those issues. But there is definitely pressure on Labour not to upset the apple cart in certain parts of the country where they enjoy block votes from certain communities. And look, I think it's really important. I've spoken to a number of Muslims, both MPs and others, who are furious that this hasn't been addressed, because they see this as a stain upon their whole religion, when actually it is the actions of really quite despicable individuals. And unless and until sunlight is shone on this particular issue, there will be a question mark over Labour's motivations, and unfortunately there will be a degree of collective blame for Muslims in the UK. And I know plenty of Muslims who are furious that this isn't gripped.
Would it be wrong? Would it be wrong of me? Well, I know I can absolutely concur with your last sentence, but would it be wrong of me to say that maybe the leaders of the said Muslim communities need to be a little bit more vocal about how they share that anger, James? Would that not be part of this process? Because I think what the British people, they want transparency, and they feel they have a government. They don't know whether it's the Muslim vote. They don't know whether they think... I mean, I get messages all the time. Is this because this goes right to the top? Is this because it's been covered up by people for years? People will say it's still going on. But this really matters to people. It matters to people because it goes to the very core of the difference between right and wrong. And it shouldn't. You're right. I mean, we had Matthew Talbot was saying, you know, politicians, Chris Philp, he's making politics out of it. Well, politicians are supposed to speak up for their constituents and for this country. I think this is on a scale with the post office scandal, and I think that all politicians have to understand the depth of anger the British people feel. And I agree with you in what you said. Can we bring it on to something else? Yesterday, your colleague, I nearly said leadership rival, Robert Jenrick, it's interesting, he does a phone-in show once a month on this station. They called it Ring Rob. Not much creative thought put into that. He said this when asked by a caller about a possible burqa ban. If you'd be prepared to watch this a sec, please.
Just a thought. Instead of banning Maccabee, how about banning the burqa and halal meat?
Right. Well, I probably would ban the burqa. But then you've also seen Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, say in the last week that this is something that she's going to pursue. So I think there's definitely a strong argument for it. Look, there are basic values in this country, and we should stand up and defend them. And where you're seeing them fraying at the edges or frankly being completely destroyed, whether it's, you know, Sharia courts or wearing of the burqa, these are issues we're going to have to confront if we want to build the kind of society that we want to hand on to our kids and grandkids.
James, I know this is difficult for you. Your leader is not so keen, Kemi Badenoch. James quite vocal there about he would ban the burqa. What's your stance on this?
Well, I am a freedom-loving conservative. My instincts are not to ban things. And also what I don't want to do is break our long-standing tradition of freedom of religion. I think the broader point, and this is something I am very, very passionate about, is making sure we all play by the same rules. We all subscribe to the same norms. So Rob also mentioned Sharia law. Now, this is very much within his portfolio. He's the Shadow Secretary of State for Justice. There is only one system of law in the UK. Everyone should abide by that. We go back to the grooming gangs, the rape gangs scandal, for example. Nobody should be allowed to believe that there are different sets of rules for different religions or communities in the UK. Mm-hmm. So everybody plays by the same rules. Then I think issues, when people talk about banning the burqa, I think they're using that as a shorthand for having people subscribe to the rules and laws and norms of the UK.
We've had people this morning say in droves, so digital ID, as suggested by two-tier Kia, will go out the window, because how do you implement that? But what I want to ask you is, Robert Jenrick was wrong then, yes?
Well, I'm not a fan of banning things. As I say, my instinct is as a freedom-loving conservative. I'm a traditional Thatcherite, Reaganite conservative, and I think the real issue is making sure that everybody subscribes to the same rules and laws and norms. And actually, once people do that, I think a lot of issues like this will actually wither because they are a shorthand for people's general concerns that there's a two-tier system in the UK. And Rob is absolutely right. We've got to make it clear that everybody is expected to play by the same rules.
The other day I had the grandee, as I call him, Sir Ian Duncan Smith, who said something about the Tories right now, James, which sort of I understood, but it's quite damning. He said, at the moment, we're so not listened to because of what happened at the end that the only aim we can have is that the British people learn to listen to what we have to say. Do you think that the Tories who, you know, let's be honest, you're going to tell me you don't believe in polls, but it's pretty dire right now. Do you think it's because none of you can seem to agree? Because Kemi Badenoch says, like you, I don't think you should ban burqas. Robert Jenrick comes on this station yesterday and says, I absolutely should. Do you think because there's no clear direction and plan that that's half the reason why your party isn't polling brilliantly?
Well, actually, I disagree with your assessment. What Ian was saying, I think, is legitimate and understandable, which is we're less than 2 years out from a general election where we got a very painful defeat, and it will take us a while to rebuild the trust and confidence of the British people. But the speech that Kemi Badenoch made at the Conservative Party conference, re-establishing the fact that we are going to be the party of sound money, that we are going to cut public spending by significant amounts, and we're going to use at least half that money to drive down the deficit, and whatever is left to drive down taxes. That golden rule re-establishes us as the party of fiscal responsibility. We're going to support entrepreneurs. We're going to cut business rates for small local businesses. We're going to scrap stamp duty so people can get on the housing ladder and older people can downsize. We're going to put downward pressure on inflation, which we're still seeing is far too high, twice the level that we left government seeing. These are the things that we will keep talking about, and these are the things that we as a party should focus on, but they won't be heard the first time we say them, which is why we have to say them again and again and again.
Is it frustrating? Is it frustrating when you feel you're beginning to have a message? And listen, I've got a job to do, you've got a job to do. I've been very critical of Kemi Badenoch for one reason. I don't believe, and you can tell me until I'm blue in the face, I don't believe you wait 15 months to come out with what you actually believe went wrong, because I could have told you after 2 minutes, because I was the architectural type Tory voter who was brought up a Tory. And I remember distinctly, James, during the last election campaign, Reform stood up and said, taxes are too high, immigration is out of control, we have no men and women of the police on the streets, victims are put second behind perpetrators of crime. I don't know what the hell's happened to this society, and I won't name them because I can't remember, but I saw a Tory being interviewed and he said, this is what's wrong with Reform, this is far right. And I remember millions like me went, no, it's not, mate, that's true conservatism that we were brought up, and you've lost the plot. And that not listening, for me, the biggest mistake that Kemi Badenoch has made is that, yes, she's had 15 months to work out, and yes, it was barnstorming at the conference. But while you've been doing that for 15 months, Sir James Cleverly, Nigel Farage has jumped into that vacuum and has got the pulse of the British people right in his hand, because that's, in my mind, that's where the Tories have gone wrong. I'd love your take on that.
So, Jeremy, you're half right. And I'll tell you...
I did all right then, yeah? I did all right, yeah?
You did okay, but I'll tell you why you're only half right. And this is the difference between other political parties and us. Just like we said at the beginning of the interview with Jess Phillips, pointing at a problem is easy, and she spent her career pointing at a problem. Now it's her job to fix the problem. She's struggling. Saying that taxes are too high is easy, but actually doing something about it is a lot harder, as we have seen in reform-run councils all over the country, which haven't been able to cut a penny more than the Conservatives that they took over from. Saying that immigration is too high is easy, but what are you actually going to do about it? And the difference between the Conservatives under Kemi and all these other political parties, Lib Dems, Labour, Greens, Reform, is pointing at the problem and saying, oh, isn't it terrible? That is easy. What she has done, what we have done, is actually set out a plan to do something about it. Because frankly, the British people are frustrated with inflation. They're frustrated with wages not growing fast enough. They're frustrated with immigration. They're frustrated with crime levels, and rightly so. And having your finger on the pulse matters. But what they are even more frustrated by is politicians saying, "Oh, I can fix that with no problem," and then not having a plan to fix it.
I would respectfully suggest, this is true, you're half right, okay? And I don't mean that, I'm not coming back at you for any other reason. I agree, right? It's very easy. The view from the cheap seats is always easier. Opposition is easier. But I will tell you what I pick up upon, that the British public are at the crossroads because they've gone, that lot had 14 years and we stopped listening to them, and the reason we voted them out is they didn't do what they said they were going to do. This lot got elected. Ming Vaz didn't say anything, and they lie about almost anything. I think you downplay the significance of Nigel Farage only in that I think the British public, in their millions, have gone, they've had goes for years. This lot have had goes. I don't care if he's got no political cabinet experience. I don't care if he's a businessman. I don't even care right now if he says things that he doesn't materialise. Right now, I've got such little faith in all of them. What the hell would be wrong with giving this man a chance? That's what I'm saying. But I want to finish on a light-hearted note with you, James, if that's all right, because you've been utterly brilliant. Have you seen this camera thing that Starmer did? So Keir Starmer was given... Labour put out this dreadful video. Have we got the original video or just the new one? He put out a video at somebody, it was like El Dorado acting. They went, "Oh, Prime Minister, there's a mobile camera, go and take some pictures." And then he took pictures of, I don't know, unimportant things. The Tory party have used this and thrown it back at him. Do you know about this?
I do. I know. So I know the photography team that set up the original one. Obviously, I worked with them when they were in.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to play the original one. This is what Labour put out yesterday, peeps. Have a watch. This is the vision of pictures that were nothing to do with anything. But your party, James Cleverly, has completely done a job on this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the new one, courtesy of the Tory party PR. The pictures now are Mandelson and Epstein and Angela Rayner crying and Rachel Thieves crying. And it's quite funny, isn't it, James Cleverly?
Well, look, as I was saying, I know the photography team that they're doing their best. They are trying to turn a personality vacuum into something a bit interesting. But what he can't hide from, and even a really talented number 10 media team really can't hide from, is the fact that everything he touches goes wrong. His choice of key people, Mandelson, Rayner, I mean, it's a catalogue of errors, and he can't hide from that. And look, I think this is a demonstration of the fact that, yes, we've been perhaps a little bit quiet for a bit too long, but we are absolutely coming out fighting because the British people deserve better. We dropped the ball when we were in government. There's no point in pretending otherwise, but our duty now is to get rid of this awful Labour government and actually get back into government to get the economy back on track, secure the borders, get houses built and people into homes, get wages matching costs and all those things, because that's what the British people really need. And this is a step in the right direction.
Listen, great to have you on. Please come on again. It's a real pleasure. Sir James Cleverly, thank you so much indeed. Former Foreign Secretary, 8:25. We're live across the United Kingdom. Loads of you with an opinion. We'll do some. 87222. We'll go to the break. The burqa thing. Robert Jenrick came on here and said ban it. Other people are saying no. What did James Cleverly sort of sat on the fence and said, I don't think about freedoms, Kemi this, whatever. Susie on the burqa, go.
Good morning, Jezza. Yeah, as far as the burqa's concerned, I think the burqa, face coverings should be banned. Yeah, if you want to wear a hijab or whatever, that's fine. But all face coverings should be banned in public.
I remember talking to Matt Hancock at the time, who was the health secretary, and I said, Matt, who is in danger, who is dying? Why don't you just protect the elderly and the vulnerable and let everybody else get on with it? Locking up all these youngsters was insane, and I believe that this is a ticking time bomb for society to be picking up the pieces in many months and years to come. You know, the mental health issues that we really haven't even begun to scratch the surface of, I think you can directly link back to the closing of the schools.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning to you. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. JK on Morning Glory till 10 o'clock. Julie here then. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Voice notes as well. You're not very impressed with James Cleverly. Morning, Chris. He says, Cleverly, as you said, had 14 years, did nothing about child rape gangs, did nothing about crime, did nothing about mass immigration and illegals, closed prisons, the highest taxes since the war, destroyed Brexit, never got rid of EU regulations. I'd rather vote reform than these liars of the Tories and Labour and the Liberals that have done damage over the last 30 years. Good morning to Don in Stalybridge, Don Whittingham. He says, morning, Jez. After listening to... This is interesting. After listening to Rob Jenrick yesterday, I was being swayed towards going back to the Tories. But after listening to James Cleverly just now, he still doesn't get it. He can't read the minds of the people. And that is what I feel about the Tory party. Good morning to Rob in London. What a Tory wet Cleverly is. They haven't changed one damn bit. He can't even give a definitive answer on banning the burqa. They're pathetic and still the same old Tories. Cleverly should join the Lib Dems. They can't be trusted again to get it right for our country. I sadly, he says, don't believe one word that comes out of their mouth. They're finished. And Angela Bateman in Wimslow, it's posh there, not impressed by James Cleverly this morning. I'm willing to give reform a go because the other two have done jack all. Really interesting there. I asked him about the burqa. Robert Jenrick on this show yesterday saying I'd ban. Kemi Badenoch saying I'm not going to. James Cleverly somewhere in the middle. I think that probably does sum up the Tory party, to be honest, and that's what you're telling me. 0344 499 1000. We're delighted to be joined now. He's got a column on page 12 this morning. I fear we might argue a bit. Good morning, Ross Clark, columnist for The Sun. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. Fine, thanks.
Lovely to see you. I see you, and I always think you was just a happy creature. Your headline today, you brave man. Reform will get nowhere by ratting on its election promises. Kent County Council cash cuts chaos. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kent County Council is just about the biggest breakthrough that Reform UK have had so far. In May council elections, they won 57 of the 80-odd seats, really something great victory. They are in charge now of one of the biggest councils in England. They came to power promising to lower council taxes and to, make cuts. Now, a few months on, less than 6 months on, the council leader is now telling us, oh, well, maybe we're not going to do that, and maybe actually we're going to raise council tax by another 5%, just as we criticise the Tories for doing, and seems to have turned her back for the moment, completely on cuts. Even bizarrely claims that the public actually want higher taxes and higher spending.
Would it be fair to say, Ross, and I'm not against what you're saying, and I completely understand that. We were talking earlier on the show about how, with Jess Phillips, the view from the cheap seats is always, I suspect, a lot easier than actually when you're there having to make the choices. And I'm not going to sit here and say that winning seats on Kent County Council and thus control of the council and saying we're going to do this and then getting in there and discovering that, in fact, there's horrendous amounts of money that have been spent or owed and they can't actually do it, is not an eye-opener, because I'm pretty sure that lots of politicians across this country on all levels have been guilty and will always be guilty of saying we're going to do this, and the reality is very different. But I'll put to you what I've just put to James cleverly, and I'm not sticking up for reform necessarily here. I think reform will make mistakes. I think they'll make mistakes on a council level. I think they'll make mistakes in terms of personnel. That, for many people in our country, is okay. So fed up to the back teeth are they with what they were told were perfect politicians who would change their lives, and turned out to be people who said things simply to get elected. But even beyond that, Ross, I think the British public would go, yeah, so it's difficult for them. That's because of what they've inherited. Yeah, they're going to make mistakes. But you know what? After 30 years of the uniparty madness, we're going to give them a go anyway. I sort of think the time has come, and I'd love your opinion on this, for politicians to stand up and go, I'm not squeaky clean. I'm not going to get it all right. It's going to be a journey. Come with me, and I'll tell you when I get it right, and I'll tell you when I get it wrong. I'd front this out if I was Kent County Council reform and say, yeah, it's harder than we thought, it's more difficult than we were led to believe. I'm being honest with you. What would people say?
I agree on that latter point, that politicians should be more honest, and when they fail to achieve things, they should hold their hands up. But what Reform Council leaders doing this week was saying, trying to do exactly the same trick as Rachel Reeves, which was to blame the non-delivery of promises to cut taxes on a supposed black hole in the accounts, which the previous Tory administration has had put there. Now, we know how well that strategy has worked for Rachel Reeves. The public are not at all impressed. If Reeves goes on to rat on her promises not to raise the rates of income tax, VAT and national insurance, well, she's already ratted on the last one, she really is going to be political toast. Now, if I were Reform UK, I'd be thinking, now, we can get away with some things, some promises that we maybe made in our manifesto. That
less is more is what you're saying, isn't it? Less is more.
Fundamentally, the issue of tax and spending, it's one thing where politicians do not get away with it. Remember George Bush the First in the 1992 presidential election saying, read my lips, no new taxes. Well, he was absolutely dumped out of office for ratting on that promise. And
it's a really interesting point you make, and the point that I take from your article is Reform are in a position they're in. Do you twist or do you bust? Do you do what we all accused Starmer of doing, which is the Ming Vase policy of saying nothing because everybody else is screwing up and you'll get elected? Or do you add to the clamour of people going, we need meat on the bone, it's all about headlines with reform, tell us what you do, and then you say it and people pick it to pieces? I suspect you'd agree with me. That's politics, Ross, isn't it? And if you want it, they're going to come for you. That's what you got to know.
No, they are. But, I mean, the thing about reform, they made a really big thing about this Department of Government Efficiency copying Trump's Doge thing. Now, they've really got to deliver on that. Now, for Kent County Council, I appreciate there are a lot of things which are laid down in national law and they cannot cut because it is laid down from Westminster, and we would have to have a change of government in Westminster to achieve that. Other things like asylum claims and so on. Well, Kent County Council can't do anything about that on their own because it comes under national law. However, there are things which are under its control, like its own payroll. There are 44 senior council officials at Kent County Council who are paid more than $100,000 a year. There are 8 paid more than $150,000 a year. The chief executive is earning more than the Prime Minister. Now, if Reform UK want to impress us by, proving that the Doge thing actually has some meat behind it, they've got to make a start. And, one of the starts they could easily make is trim some of those senior salaries to show that
couldn't agree with you more.
They are in it together.
It's a great article. You've got to answer this because as we're in the business of taking it both sides, Ian says, where was Ross Clark's report and criticism of the previous Kent Council leaders, the ones who spent all the bloody money? Is this two-tier journalism? 30 seconds to respond, Ross.
Well, Kent County Council is one of many authorities run by the Tories. I've been extremely critical of the Tories and their failure to contain spending over the past.
You got to be
10
open-minded
years.
about criticising everybody. That's the point, isn't it? Everybody's open for. You put yourself out there, you can take criticism.
No party will get any favours from me, whether it's Reform UK, Tories, Labour, Lib Dems, and the Greens.
You're striking the fear of God into everybody. Ross Clark, thank you very much indeed. Great article this morning. Kent County Council, Cash Cats Chaos. Cash cut. And I can't say it. Page 12. This is Jeremy Carr. We're live across the UK. Morning Glory. We told you that in Birmingham, it's brilliant this. Oh, now you haven't cleared up me rubbish for 6 months, but you have put your Christmas tree and your lights up. Marco, what do you make of this?
Christmas, Jeremy. Ha! I laugh at you. The longest official Christmas in the world is here in the Philippines. Believe it or not, it starts on the 1st of September. Yes, the 1st of September. I was in the mall. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We help!
Sorry, he's in the Philippines? I thought he was from Mauritius, where we've given them 16 billion quid, and just to ruin your Wednesday, the Mauritians, we gave them the Chagos Islands, we also gave them 16 billion quid, which means that no Mauritian for the next 12 months will pay any tax. Happy Christmas, see you in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Lovely. Can I just tell you about Ian Collins is on in the afternoon, The Housewife's Choice. Mrs. Kyle, right? Number 3, as I call her. Mrs. Kyle is obsessed with Ian Collins' voice. It's as smooth as silk. So he'll be on his way in the train in his flasher, mate. That'll make him smile. Ian Collins for 1 and Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10 0344 499 1000. My next guest was the former Minister for Common Sense. She's a fantastic MP, but I remember when she used to sit behind a television camera with me. Esther McVeigh, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, for those days.
Do we crave back to that? Good morning, Britain. Esther McVeigh and Jeremy Kyle. How's it going? Oh God. You're right.
All part of a colourful past.
Oh, let's not talk about it, love. I want to talk to you about you taking the lead last night. this sentencing bill and I was talking to Sarah Pochin from Reform, she prepared 10 amendments. To strip it down, this bill, and I've never understood this. So you break the law, you go to court, and they say, Miss McVeigh, we are sentencing you to 5 years in prison. And you toddle off to prison, and then after 2.5 years, they go, Miss McVeigh, thank you for behaving yourself. You can bugger off now. Labour want to make it that Miss McVeigh can just serve a few months, because their idea of clearing up space in prisons is to let prisoners out. Now, I'd just like to publicly say, before you give me, and you've done brilliantly, is I don't understand and never have as to why, if you're given a sentence, you don't bloody well serve the whole sentence, because that is what you got for the crime you committed.
People call that dishonesty in sentencing, and I completely agree. So the last Labour government had automatic release at 50% of the time spent, and this new bill will take it down to only needing to serve a third of your time in prison for swathes of crimes. And my concern is this, and I don't think the public quite understand how bad this sentencing bill is. That's why I said it's a mockery to even call it a sentencing bill. It's how to avoid a sentence bill.
Yep.
So there will be people coming out of prison early, tens of thousands of people for some of the most serious crimes, but equally, on the way in, fewer people will be going to prison because they're wanting to put people on suspended sentences, and those suspended sentences can be for a whole array of horrific crimes, which I was trying to point out who won't be going there. So this is a dismantling of our law and order in the UK, and it is a sledgehammer to the sentencing structure that we've got. This is horrendous. And if you're saying, oh, we're short of prison places,
Build
the
more.
answer to that is build more.
Yeah.
I will say that the Tories started a programme. 3 now have been built, which was about 8,500 prison places. Yes, it wasn't fast enough, and there was a 2-year break during lockdown, which delayed the building. But there's another 3 prisons about to come on board with another 5,000 prison places. So build more prison places. We seem to have unlimited amounts of money to hold and pay for and house illegal immigrants, but we're not putting any of that money into building prisons. So I did also introduce yesterday a new clause, 62, which would be what I'd call a sunset clause. So if this genuinely were emergency legislation to tide us over until we have enough prison places, which we know 5,000 are coming on board, why wouldn't they accept the new clause for this sunset clause? Well, the answer is that they didn't want to do that because this is ideological, JK. This is because they are soft on crime. They've always been soft on crime. They don't ideologically believe in sending people to prison. They really don't, and therefore they are going to be soft on crime, and it's a slap in the face to victims of crime.
I completely agree. And sometimes when you look at this stuff, you're closer to it, but sometimes I look at this stuff and I go, so you commit a crime, you're going to stand in front of the judge. 9 times out of 10, the judge is going to go, oh, I'm more concerned about, the perpetrator's upbringing than I am the victim. Then you go to prison and you can get out early, because the whole justice system, to me, is so soft and so wrong. And I support you for doing that. As I said to Sarah Pochin yesterday, I think people do need to know that it's like the building of houses. All the MPs run around and go, we need more houses, and they go, in your constituency, bugger off. We need more prisons. I would go further and say you have to serve your time. We need to train, support and look after the staff who work in prisons, because, Christ, why would you want that job right now? And you're right about ideology. So much of this government is ideologically based, and so many of their decisions, look at the grooming gangs thing that's dominated this morning, is based on we don't want to upset these people and we don't want to upset these people, and they've sat a focus group down in front of 2-tier Keir and they've gone, if you say that, that'll be all right with those people, and if you say that, that won't upset these 2 people. I just think, Esther, you know what I think? I think we've reached a seminal point in this country where the silent majority, whether it's grooming gangs or building more prisons or letting people out or 1.9 million illegal foreigners taking benefits, where people are just going, I lived my life correctly for years, I've paid my taxes, and do you know what? I'm at the back of the bleeding queue, and I don't believe this country... Fairness is a really important word, and I think fairness has gone out the window in the last few years, and that's why I think both Tory and Labour are struggling to click to the... I genuinely believe that. I really do.
And you know why I think this bill is so bad, because there is, if you look at this, a collision here between the rape gang inquiry that's not happening, because this justice bill, this sentencing bill, will allow rapists, paedophiles, stalkers out of prison early, right? So if you look at the Justice Secretary and the Home Secretary, they're all talking tough, what they're going to do, what they're going to do with this rape gang, what they're going to do with sentences, but actually the exact opposite is true. So when we've talked for so long, we feel this government is gaslighting us. It is. And I have to say, calls now for Jess Phillips to resign are correct. I would say she misled the House yesterday, and she was proved to mislead the House yesterday. She said it was untrue that the government was going to broaden the scope of the rape gang inquiry. And unfortunately for her, Fiona Goddard proved that they are trying to do that. She showed it looked like text messages between Jess Phillips, and she also showed the questions that she was being asked. Anybody who misleads the House should go.
You know, the thing is that people this morning to us, Esther, have made, and this is where I talk about transparency the whole time. We had Matthew Talbot on earlier. The majority of people contacting this station this morning will say one thing and one thing only. It is a disgrace that this inquiry has not happened before. There are, it seems, people implicated from the bottom to the top, and I think there's a lot of fear. But you have to, if you, and Sir James cleverly admitted, agreed with me, you have to, as an outsider, look at this government and go, you're absolutely terrified to open this up because a core part of your vote, which has crumbled everywhere else across the UK, is in doubt. And if you are putting children's well-being, and I've got 6 kids, the abuse of children, if you're putting that below your vote counter, you don't deserve to be anywhere near a position of power in this country. Can I, sorry?
I was going to say that's exactly right, and that's true of Jess Phillips, that's true of West Streeting. There's so many people whose seat are marginal now, and they're really frightened of the Muslim vote, that they are overlooking the most horrific crime, and it was rape and it was torture too, of young, vulnerable, white working class girls. You're right, it has gone on for some time, and there were a few brave MPs who put their head above the parapet and said there is something going wrong, going back up to about 15, 20 years, said there's something going wrong. Anne Cryer was a Labour MP who did it. My husband, Philip Davis, was a Conservative MP who did it. And people went, this cannot be true. They didn't want to believe it. A TV documentary was made on it. There were some journalists talking about it. And this is why some of these, well, you've got 4 now standing down, these victims of rape gangs stood down, because they said, look, we weren't believed all those years ago. We were told we were liars all that time ago. And now with Jess Phillips, who's supposedly this champion of women,
absolutely
right, talked a lot on the opposition benches. Now she's got a chance to do something. She isn't. And that's why Fiona Goddard said yesterday, and she made me feel like a liar yet again by saying it wasn't true. They weren't broadening it. They weren't kicking the can down the road, when absolutely they are. By the way, in June, I asked the question to Jess Phillips on the floor of the House and to the team there. I said, oh, you seem to be dragging your feet here. You haven't got the panel. You haven't got the chair. I do hope you're not dragging this out so the inquiry is after the general election so you can save your seats, because that's what it's all about.
I'm going to say this, not because Esther's a mate of mine and I couldn't make hers and Philip's wedding. I have absolutely no understanding, darling, how you are not on the shadow front bench. It is beyond me. We love having you on the show. Big mistake by Cami Badenoch. Thanks for coming on. Love to Philip. See you very soon. 8 minutes to 9. Is it sport next? Honest to God, I've had no breakfast. Back in 3.
I was to discuss the overrepresentation of British Pakistani men in grooming gangs, or the continuation of child marriage, or even the problem of FGM within this country, you know, or cousin marriage and the insane pressure that puts on the NHS, these are very real societal problems. But if I make the link that there's some justification there between Islamic scriptures and the real phenomenon that we're seeing, with this bill, I would be deemed Islamophobic or racist, which again is a false equivocation because Islam is not a race.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4 minutes to 9, time for sport. Push the button, big boy.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Welcome to Rob Moore, Associate Sports Features Editor of The Sun. Everybody's got a title. Rob, how are you, me old son?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Jeremy. It was a bumper night for the Premier League sides last night.
Can we talk Champions League? I'm a West Ham fan. I'm used to disappointment. We're going to be relegated. I get all of that. I want to talk about Arsenal. This is like sticking a knife into the side of my head, but I'm going to say it. Yeah, they won 4-0 last night, Atletico Madrid. I do not believe that if Mikel Arteta doesn't win a trophy that he will be at that club anymore. I think they have the best squad. I think they're completely on it. I think they could easily win the Champions League and easily win the Premier League. It has to be their season, doesn't it, Rob?
Well, they're top of the Premier League. They've won 3 out of 3 in the Champions League. Getting the message out of Victor Gyökeres is going to be key for Arteta to fulfil that ambition. He got 2 last night as they stuffed Atletico Madrid 4-0. It's about time, isn't it, with the Gunners? He's been there long enough. He's one of the longest-serving managers in the top flight. They probably have one of the most adaptable squads at the moment. The key thing is going to be injuries, Jeremy, isn't it? If they can keep that squad fit as they compete on the domestic and European fronts.
I think they've got 2 in every position. I just think it looks the best and most balanced squad. They're on the back of the Sun. Victoria, I see what you've done there. Cheap, but wonderful. Newcastle, Sean Custis, of course, took a day off. He was at St James's Park with the wife last night. That's how he celebrated his anniversary. Do you know that? By taking his wife to Benfica Newcastle. 3-0 to the Tsunami.
Yeah, I mean, she would have enjoyed that because it was 3-0 and Jose Mourinho didn't because he was the opposing manager. Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes scored those goals. So for any Newcastle fan to watch your team win the Champions League, it's probably worth having a date for 2, isn't it? I would imagine on Tyneside. Well,
Sean will tell you that. I'm going to be at St James's Park on Wednesday to see them play Spurs, of course, in the Carabao Cup. But a really interesting time. Very quickly, your take on Liverpool. Many people are calling it a crisis. Many people are saying that this is Arne Slot's team. He won the Premier League last year with Jurgen Klopp. The money he spent, the team he's got, it's not working.
Well, they've lost 4, haven't they, in a row? So if they lose 5 tonight, Eintracht Frankfurt, then there really could be crisis talks. They had issues last night getting into the country. They had to wait nearly 4 hours on the tarmac because there were flight problems. They were lucky to get in the country because according to German rules, you're not allowed to land after 10 o'clock. They got in at 9:15. So they've had a terrible build-up to get into this match. Maybe they'll turn it around tonight, but if they were to lose 5 in a row, then that will only intensify those crisis calls.
I mean, you've got to look at the quality of that squad and you've got to think what's happening. I've no idea. Maybe it's just the nature of football. And very quickly, not on your list, but Sean Dyche confirmed yesterday, late on, as the new manager of Nottingham Forest on a 2-year contract. They're going back to basics, mate. It's a bit like West Ham. We'll throw creativity out the window. We want to maintain Premier League safety.
Absolutely. Let's hope he stays longer than 39 days, which was Anne Postecoglou's tenure in charge. But yeah, so the defensive stability, get them to get some results. But look, it's a third England manager in the Premier League. We can't complain about that, can we?
No, I just wanted Jose back in the Premier League. That's me. Rob Moore, what do you call it? You know, in rugby, when they all get the ball, the pack, did you know it's called a maul?
It is, yeah.
Obviously, you're not very impressed by that. Right, anyway, bless your heart. Thanks for being on. Sunspot on the back today, fantastic. News at 9 and Mel Stride, Shadow Home Secretary on this station, 0344 499 1000. The News at 9 is next.
Majesty. Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. And to William and Kate, thank you so much. It's been so great being with you today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. The phrase special relationship, seen from American eyes, the word special does not begin to do it justice. We're joined by history and fate, by love and language. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with you.
Security remains the cornerstone of this special relationship. We have the deepest, most advanced defense relationship in the world.
As I said last night, the bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any two nations in human history.
We are working together to end the humanitarian catastrophe in the Middle East.
The one that I thought would be easiest would be because of my relationship with President Putin, but he's let me down. He's really let me down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, very good morning. It's Wednesday, the 22nd of October. You lucky people. Welcome to Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. JK till 10, Julia Hartley-Brewer from 10. If you want to be part of this vain attempt at a radio programme, it's very simple. 0344 499 1000 is the only number you need. Damien is motivated to take your call because he's only got 59 minutes left before he goes home because he lives there. You can send a voice note. We'd love to get that. You can also text the show at any time. We had Ross Clark on half an hour ago, who's written on page 12 of the Sunday an article saying reform will get nowhere by ratting on its election promises. He's taken aim at they now control Kent Council cash cuts chaos. You try saying that after the amount of wine we had this morning. I'm joking. So actually, that wound you all up. Martin Bailey, good morning. Really quite annoyed by Ross Clark, Jez, to be honest. Must have a reform derangement syndrome. They've been in power for 15 weeks. Grow up. Hello to Andy, who says, let's be frank, Reform have made £7 million worth of cuts in Kent. What the hell does Ross Clark expect in such a short space of time? Chris says, morning, Jez. I'd like Ross Clark to have a go at reform councils. I like Ross Clark, but have a go at reform councils is a bit of a joke. They got in only in May, for Christ's sake. Give them a chance. Brilliant. OK, you're all feeling very angry. You're also feeling angry about the burqa. Dear Jeremy, they don't get it, says Linda Whittingham. What? The whole thing? Who doesn't? When people want to be part of Britain, they should westernise themselves. We don't want to see millions of people wearing burqas. I like to see faces. People smile. People say hello. Try working in showbiz. They don't. Plus, it's a security issue. How the hell are we going to introduce IDs if people are wearing burqas? Yeah, well, listen, all of that and more. Love your opinions. Love your thoughts. Maybe you want to talk about the grooming gang's chaos. Robert Jenrick yesterday on this station saying he would support a ban on the burqa. We find out today that nearly 1.9 million foreign citizens who don't even have citizenship are getting benefits to the tune of millions of pounds every year. What a happy Wednesday it is. I'm delighted to be joined now by the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer, and I can guarantee that he's got a blue suit, a white shirt and a blue tie. Mel Stride, good morning.
You're almost right, but the shirt is actually slightly blue, Jeremy. But apart from that, good morning.
That. The Sky cameras, I was like, is it a pale blue or is it a white? A very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for tuning in.
You were close. You were close.
Let's talk financially. You are the Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. This morning we discovered, hurrah, inflation remains at 3.8% for September. The bigger, if this was me talking to you, the bigger picture to many people who watch and listen to this station is that there's no growth. Prices in the supermarket are going through the roof. Our taxes and our electricity prices are growing. And I guess we feel as a nation that we're skint, and we see a government who seems to spend money on things except for us, without wanting to sound too much of an embittered voter, Mel.
No, I think that's a pretty good analysis. I would add to that, of course, that unemployment now is at a 4-year high as well. And all of this is because of the government's choices, the Chancellor's choices. So, you know, they came into office, if you remember, saying they weren't going to be putting up taxes left, right and centre. They then slapped a £25 billion national insurance jobs tax on businesses. That has been part of, as you say, the growth problem that we've got. But it's also fed inflation, because some of that tax has found its way through to higher prices. And they've gone on a borrowing and spending spree, spending about £500 billion more than we had planned when we were in office. That's feeding through to higher prices, and that's part of the reason why people are feeling a lot worse off, particularly when food inflation is running much higher than the general headline rate of inflation.
And I think that's the point, because, you know, we can all sit here and talk about the headline, you know, inflation 3.8%, but you're absolutely right. To put it in layperson, you're not allowed to say layman's terms anymore, are you? Layperson's terms, that your food bill is more expensive, your council tax is more expensive, everything, it seems, is more expensive. And when you add into the mix that this government borrowed £20.2 billion in September, and Liam Halligan was telling me earlier from The Independent that 10 billion of that is simply to pay our debts. Now, I'm old-fashioned, I'm 60. I still remember at the end of my mum's life, people will laugh, it's true, they had a ledger. And every month she would have ins and outs, credits and debits, and that's how they did it. When you think our own government is spending 120 billion a year merely servicing a debt, that's just financial suicide, Mel Stride, isn't it?
It is madness. I mean, they are living well beyond our means, and that's why we've got a real public finances crisis in this country. So what the high inflation is doing, actually, is driving up interest rates higher for longer, keeping them, should I say, higher for longer. And that's what's driving that servicing cost on that ever-growing mountain of debt that they're creating. Now, that 100, and it will rise to 130 billion servicing costs by the end of this Parliament, is about twice what we spend on defence. So that puts it into context. That's not money going into public services. It's simply money going to pay for the incompetence of this government by way of paying off our creditors.
And I guess you're an honest guy. We've spoken before, and I was talking to Sir James Cleverly earlier, and if we look beyond the financial thing, but we keep that in the background, you've got... I mean, I had Sir Ian Duncan-Smith on yesterday, and he said something that sort of blew me away. He said, right now, we are fighting just for the British electorate to listen to us. After the ending and the 14 years and the change of leadership, and you know this as well as I do, you're a politician, you won your seat, but many people in their millions are saying, do you know what, at the end of the day, we stopped listening to them. They could have offered us a 50 grand each. We stopped listening to them. They've had 14 years. Yes, this lot have come in and, surprise, surprise, they've got one policy, which is to raise taxes. That'll be the latest thing from racial thieves. But the Tories. I want to talk about the Tories. I had Robert Jenrick on yesterday. Robert comes on here once a month for a new feature, Mel. I want you to smile when I say this. They said, let's get him in and he can answer questions on the phone. And the creative team came back with, let's call it Ring Rob. Not the greatest creative brilliance, but they did it anyway. Now, he was quite forthright about one subject, which I'll ask you about in a minute. James Cleverly disagreed with him. Kemi Badenoch disagrees with both of them. This is about the burqa, right? He said it should be banned. Kemi said it shouldn't. James went, I can see both sides. Do you believe that is with respect, not just the past, but that is why the British public, you're not getting traction because they don't know what the hell you believe in?
Well, let's come to the burqa in a minute, but they should start to be understanding what we believe in, because I'm on your show talking about getting government spending under control, the £47 billion that I announced at our conference. We also, therefore, as a consequence of that, were able to talk about some of the tax cuts that we'd introduced, stamp duty on property, business rates for shops and pubs in high streets, a big bold offer for young people for their first job, cutting their taxes. That's a very clear piece of blue water between us and Labour and the fantasy economics of the Reform Party. But on the burqa and on that issue, we're very clear as a party that we're saying that we're not talking about an overall ban on the burqa, but we do recognise, and I recognise, and Kemi recognises that there are circumstances in which it is inappropriate for somebody to dress in that way given the situation. So if somebody, for example, is employing somebody at work and the situation requires them to have their face shown, then I think it's perfectly reasonable that that should be a clear requirement. And I think the example that Kemi gave actually was of somebody coming to her surgery, her MP surgery, and her wanting to be certain as to who she's speaking to, and therefore it's just totally reasonable, I think, for somebody to make sure that their face is visible under those circumstances.
Don't go anywhere. I just want to say to those idiots behind with the signs, I'm bored of it. Brexit's gone. Go and get a job or something. The other thing, Mel, well, honestly, how do they have time to stand there? I got up at 4 o'clock, lazy buggers. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was Kemi's approach. You're quite right to point out that at the conference, the stamp duty thing, I saw the Tory faithful grow. You would absolutely acknowledge that at the end of your tenure, nobody was listening. Do you think, and I know you're in the shadow cabinet, but answer me this if you can, I think that the major mistake that has been made from Kemi and the team is that you took too long to come out to put meat on the bone. Hear me out. There's a vacuum, or there was a vacuum, and Nigel Farage and Reform have jumped straight into that vacuum and have been very vocal, and I believe probably have their finger on the pulse in people's perception of the things that matter. Now, you're going to throw out, we had to be serious, you can just say it. Do you not think that maybe at the beginning, when Kemi became leader, you jump up and you go, I believe in securing our borders, I believe in low taxation, I believe in making sure our defence is the thing, and policemen and women are on the streets, and we'll go and we'll work out how we're going to do that and come back to you. Do you think the silence for so long, Mel, created that vacuum in which Reform have jumped in and now are riding high in the polls?
Well, I think firstly you're absolutely right. There was a huge disconnect with the electorate at the time of that general election. It was quite a vociferous disconnection, actually. But secondly, we did actually say quite a lot of things. So on tax that we've just discussed, we said we would reverse the VAT on private schools, we would abolish the changes that the government was putting forward with agricultural property relief, that's the farm tax, or business property relief, that's the family business tax. We made a lot of statements around net migration. And
was it quick enough, though? Was it done quick enough?
Well, my point is, it didn't cut through in the way that it would under normal times. And my point is that you have to allow a certain amount of time to lapse and keep being an effective opposition as we have been in order to earn that trust back and get that connection. And I think we did reach a bit of a pivot point with the conference in that I think we did start to cut through. Now, at least what we have done now, I think, is amongst the membership and amongst the commentariat, yourselves included, I think we've got off the table
is that what you're calling me? You're calling me commentariat?
The commentariat.
Wow.
Yeah, commentariat, journalists,
I know,
is that we have got off the table this notion that the Conservative Party doesn't know what it stands for and it doesn't have any policies. We demonstrated at conference that that is just not the case. Now, we've got to build from there, but this will take time. And I suppose to flip your question around, if you were asking me, do I think if we rushed out and said we were going to slash 3 taxes and save a lot of money on government spending very shortly after the general election, it would have cut through and we'd be now saying we're ahead in the polls or doing well in the polls? Absolutely not. This is something that will take time. And the other thing, Jeremy, is we've got to take the time to come up with not those 5-minute answers, but real deep solutions to the serious challenges that our economy and country faces. We've got about 3.5 years now to the next general election. It's a very volatile electorate. Anything could happen then, and we've got every chance of coming through. And I think Kemi has thus far led us extremely well.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, if I could, very quickly, and I had Esther McVeigh on just now, and it's something that's quite close to my heart. I know Shadow Chancellor, but it's interesting to get your take. The sentencing bill last night in the Commons, and I know Esther led several amendment questions, as did Sarah Pochin from Reform. In essence, for people tuning, this sentencing bill, I mean, I'm old-fashioned, Mel. I think you get sent to prison for 5 years. You should serve the 5 years. As it stands, you probably serve 2 and you get out. Labour's idea of clearing space to put criminals in prison is to let criminals out of prison when they've served about 30% of their time, which to me destroys the whole thing. I know the Tories built 3 prisons. We should be surely building more bloody prisons and saying to people, when you break the law, that is the punishment for that crime, and you are going to stay there, incarcerated, and learn your lesson until you are allowed out. I don't understand it. It's appalling.
Yeah. Yeah, well, absolutely. When it comes to really serious offences like child sexual offences, rape, etc., we are now in a position where there can be just 2/3 of that sentence served, and for lesser crimes, about half of that sentence served, and that is, as you say, absolutely wrong. Now, we have 10,800 foreign nationals in our prisons. The emphasis should be on freeing up space in our prisons by deporting those people back to the countries that they've come from, and that is where the government has to get a grip, basically. So Esther and others and my party and the Conservatives in Parliament on this bill are absolutely right to be fighting this tooth and nail, and that's exactly what we've been doing.
You've been amazing. To finish, you've got to answer the Jeremy Kyle 3-question quiz. Is that all right? Oh, you idiots behind. Oh, they go now.
No.
Yeah, no. So the first question
These are always disasters.
No, it's not a disaster. Yeah. Yes or no only, Mel Stride. Would you ban the burqa, yes or no?
Well, I've just already said that a blanket ban is not our policy, but there are circumstances in which the burqa is not appropriate.
How does a politician change yes and no to two sentences? Will Keir Starmer lead the Labour Party into the next election, yes or no?
Well, he shouldn't, but let's see.
Will Kemi Badenoch lead the Tories into the next election?
Yes, definitely.
And will Nigel Farage be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
No, he will not be.
I love having you on. You can definitely turn around to those people and say, get a job from me. Mel Stride, thank you very much indeed. Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. What the hell is those people on college? Ooh, Brexit. It was done 100 years ago. Go and get a job. We say good morning to the political editor of The Independent, David Maddox. How are you?
Morning, yeah, good, thanks.
It's good to have a political journalist who actually answers the phone and is there. Liam Allaghan was out in the kitchen. David, very quickly, if it's okay, I was quite interested yesterday when Robert Jenrick came on the show and was talking about the burqa. This morning I've spoken to James Cleverly, who said, Robert wants it, Kemi doesn't. I sort of understand both sides. Is that one of the reasons why, in a serious way, the Tory party isn't, cracking through with the... Is it simply a hangover from an election where people don't trust them, or are they still seen as a party who literally can't make their bloody minds up?
I think the problem is that nobody sees them as a credible party of government, and that's it doesn't really matter what they say on the burqa, on a stamp duty and all the rest. If nobody believes that you can actually get into government again, nobody's listening. I mean, we have a fairly brutal measure on this because, obviously most of my work is digital. We measure the analytics every day on different stories. And I can tell you the Lib Dem stories are always at the bottom because nobody wants to read them. Nobody believes they can be in government. The Tories are now the right-wing Lib Dems. Interest has just switched off.
That is really interesting, David, because I had Sir Ian Duncan-Smith on Drive on Monday and he said something that really made me go, wow. He said, we are simply fighting right now for the British public to listen to us. We're not fighting and you look at it and you go, right, so you've got 121 seats, your Her Majesty's official opposition, and a party with 5 MPs, love them or loathe them, are making more noise, getting more traction, and are riding at 34-35%. Try going to Newcastle, it's 38%. Try going to other areas. I've seen that polling. So what you're saying is that mega poll the other day that said that the Tory party's face meltdown is a very, very real reality.
Yes, I think it is. And I think as things stand, I don't know if it will be true in 3 or 4 years' time, but as things stand, voters now perceive Reform as being the centre-right party, which is the alternative to Labour. And it doesn't matter how many MPs there are, because essentially it's media noise. And Reform have, as you know, they have the best media operator in politics, which is Nigel Farage. And that's the fact of it.
Do you think Farage will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
I'm still not sure. I'm not going to do a yes or no on that one. I'm
What's
afraid.
wrong with you lot this morning?
I don't think he will, because I actually don't think Reform will need to get a majority for that to happen. I think there are too many problems there for Reform to end up getting a majority, and I think he will be boxed out. Will he be leader of the largest party? I think yes, probably.
Are you one of those people who thinks that the only way for Nigel Farage to sweep to power will be some sort of union with the Conservative Party? Because he says that's never going to happen, and Kemi says that's never going to happen. But the point you make is quite salient. You look at what's happening with Keir Starmer and Labour. You see he's now going to COP30. You look at the Greens under that breast enhancement hypnotist, as I call him. You look at what's happening with them and you think, is the cabal going to get together to stop Farage from number 10? That's what a lot of people think.
I think there's a very good chance of that. And I mean, and in fairness to Zach Polanski, the Green leader, he is at least making some traction in the country, you know.
Yeah, but I would respectfully suggest, and I'm not telling people how to vote, that people need to lose the title of Green Party when you think you're hugging a tree and work out that this party would charge anybody who's made any money 70%. They're basically
absolutely, yeah. It's not. The Green Party is just a label. I mean,
the Green Party should be the Marxist Party, if we're absolutely honest, shouldn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, it's rather like the Labour Party. You know, it's not been about the party of working people for a long time. However often, Keir Starmer repeats the word working.
And that's a really interesting thing that you've said, David, because they say we're the party of working people. No, you're not. Go north of Watford Gap, you idiots, and speak to working people who go, the Labour Party, the name of the party was what I believe they were. They don't represent us at all.
No,
and the other big lie is we'll create growth. Listen, great to have you on. You're going to do the Jeremy Kyle test before you go? You got to do yes or no?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Should we ban the burqa? Yes or no?
No.
Will Kemi Badenoch lead the Tories into the next election?
Yes.
Ooh. Will Keir Starmer lead the Labour Party into the next election?
Yes.
Well, Nigel,
I'm gonna put a rider on those last two. On the balance of probabilities, but yes.
Honestly, none of you can go yes or no. The balance of probabilities, a PR machine.
I
understand it. Nigel Farage, will he be the next Prime Minister?
No.
And am I going to a break now?
I believe you are, yes.
Thank you very much indeed. That was David Maddox from The Independent. This is Talk Drive. No, it's not breakfast. Thanks.
mean, what we learn from history is we don't learn from history, Julia. We need to make sure we get the inquiry done quickly. I mean, it's 3 years, this inquiry, hundreds of millions of pounds. It's ludicrous. This isn't actually about, I mean, nobody set out to do anything criminal. Nobody set out to do the wrong thing. People tried to make good decisions, basically were flying blind. It was very difficult at the time, but it's very important we learn the lessons and we don't repeat those mistakes in the future, some of which you've been talking about children not being able to go to school, about people not being able to spend time outside. There's lots of those things were clearly pointless.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday morning, 9:27. Julia Hartley-Brewer here from 10. Jez says, Matthew Wally, on the burqa issue, there seems to be clear blue water emerging between the Conservatives and Reform UK. Reform should seize this opportunity and make a full ban on the burqa a clear policy. I believe this single issue could be a major vote winner and potentially hand Reform the next election. It would demonstrate genuine commitment to cultural integration and security. Interesting. Let's go to Barry in South Wales. Barry, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast. How are you?
I'm fine, Jeremy. How are you?
Lovely. You're in Labour-controlled Wales. How's it going there?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, the elections are coming up in Caerphilly, is it? Anyway, I don't know why I've launched into a Welsh accent. What can we do for you, Baz?
Well, I've just rung about the burqa. I've just come back from Turkey, a Muslim country. We didn't see one. We didn't see a burqa, a niqab, or whatever. The nearest thing to it was a few women I saw with scarves on their heads.
It's interesting, isn't it? Do you believe that the burqa should be an individual choice? Do you believe it should be banned? How will it work with digital ID? What's your take on this?
I think it should be banned.
Why?
It's not something we have in our country. It's been brought in by people who want to make a statement, I think.
Do you argue, what do you say to the people who say that's going against somebody's religion and their right to do that? What do you say to that?
Well, this is a Christian country. So if they come to our country to live, they abide by our rules.
Interesting point of view. Thank you very much indeed. We say a very good morning to Kunwar Khaldain Shahid, a Pakistani correspondent for The Diplomat. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Very good to have you on. So this argument about the burqa, I just want to play you a couple of clips even. Yesterday, you'd think I could say couple, wouldn't you? Yesterday, Robert Jenrick began a new feature on this show entitled Call Rob. It's not great, is it, really? It's just a bloke called Rob answering phone calls. But he was asked, Robert Jenrick, about the burqa. This was what he had to say.
Just a thought. Instead of banning Maccabee, how about banning the burqa and halal meat?
Right. Well, I probably would ban the burqa. But then you've also seen Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, say in the last week that this is something that she's going to pursue. So I think there's definitely a strong argument for it. Look, there are basic values in this country, and we should stand up and defend them. And where you're seeing them fraying at the edges or frankly being completely destroyed, whether it's Sharia courts or wearing of the burqa, these are issues we're going to have to confront if we want to build the kind of society that we want to hand on to our kids and grandkids.
So that was Robert Jenrick, Kunwar. This morning, Sir James Cleverly, who also stood in the leadership race for the Tory party, lost out. Well, they both lost out to Kemi Badenoch. So you've got, on the one side, Jenrick saying, I'd ban them. Kemi Badenoch saying, I wouldn't. This was Sir James Cleverly an hour ago, my friends. We've had people this morning say in droves, so digital ID, as suggested by two-tier Kia, will go out the window, because how do you implement that? But what I want to ask you is, Robert Jenrick was wrong then, yes?
Well, I'm not a fan of banning things. As I say, my instinct is as a freedom-loving conservative. I'm a traditional Thatcherite, Reaganite conservative, and I think the real issue is is making sure that everybody subscribes to the same rules and laws and norms. And actually, once people do that, I think a lot of issues like this will actually wither, because they are a shorthand for people's general concerns that there's a two-tier system in the UK. And Rob is absolutely right. But we've got to make it clear that everybody is expected to play by the same rules.
It's certainly a debate, Conwell. We'd be delighted to hear your view on this, because it's one of those subjects that's emotive. It causes real debate. What's your view on this debate?
I think what Sir cleverly just said, that everyone should abide by the same law. I think that's actually the clincher in the argument, because you mentioned Giorgia Meloni in Italy. They presented a bill. It's called the burqa ban. What it actually is that they're eliminating the exception for the burqa. So Italy has had a counter-terror law since 1975 that bans face coverings for security reasons. So what they're doing, and what Austria has done, what France has done, what Switzerland has done, is not allow the exception for the burqa. So what you're doing right now by arguing against it is saying that you would allow the exception for the burqa on religious or cultural grounds. So if you want to apply it to all face coverings, then burqa or the niqab as well should similarly be outlawed. If that's the law in France, Switzerland, Belgium, and other European countries.
It's interesting also that Starmer's mad idea about digital IDs. I've got to tell you this little story, which has nothing to do with the burqa. So unpopular is Keir Starmer. We found this out the other day. This is brilliant. That before he talked about digital ID in this country, 31% of the British people thought it was a good idea. When he spoke about it 24 hours later, minus 14% of the British public thought it was a good idea. I don't know how that works. But he's got this madcap idea about digital IDs. How's a ban on face masks going to work in terms of the security and implementing that as a policy, for Christ's sake?
I think that's something, I believe I said this a few months ago on your channel, in fact, that, if you have cameras, CCTV cameras for security reasons, and then you simultaneously allow people to just cover their face wherever they want, you can't have both at the same time. So you have to pick, either if you want to allow people exceptions for face covering, then get rid of the cameras, get rid of the securities, brace yourself for all security breaches. But if you want, face ID is the most basic thing that you require, to identify someone. If you're allowing people to escape that just because by saying that our religion or culture says that, you're not creating a secure country.
What do you say to the people who say, in terms of this debate about the burqa and or face coverings, but specifically the burqa, that if you come or you're part of a Western society, this is both sides of the argument, you should respect that and you should play along with that, and that should be the decisions that you make. And other people who say, now, hold on a minute, we might live in Great Britain, but we have a right to present our own culture and whatever. There's a disconnect, isn't there? There's a massive disconnect between those two arguments.
There's a massive disconnect, but there's also a lot of misinformation, if I may say so, as well. One of your callers just said he went to Turkey and he saw nobody wearing a burqa. And this is the Turkey that's becoming increasingly Islamized, by the way, where headscarves are increasing, but you won't see a burqa. But over 10 Muslim majority countries have complete bans on burqas and niqabs. The Islamic Council, the Ulama Council of Tajikistan, not only banned the burqa, they said, this is not our culture. This is alien to our society. In Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, they are Muslim majority for over 1,000 years. So if it's not a part of their culture, why is Britain still undecided whether it's part of British culture or not? I find this surprising.
Why is Britain undecided? Because Britain can't make a bloody decision about anything, can they, to be perfectly honest? Therein probably, Kunwar, lies the problem. I believe we have a country that's run by politicians who are so terrified of losing their jobs, they forget to do their bloody jobs. They don't... They listen to focus groups. If I say that, I said it earlier, if I say that, I'll please those people and I'll upset those, but they're less than those that I'll please. And there's nothing from the heart. I want my politicians to tell me what they think, how they're going to vote, how they're going to do it, and then I want to be able to say I either accept that or I don't. To me, it's simple, isn't it?
Absolutely. Just one point I would like to add over here as well, that people who are defending it from the religious ground as well. I personally believe even if a religion mandates something, you still shouldn't allow exceptions for that religion, whatever religion that is. But the irony over here is that no verse of the Quran or the Hadith, the Islamic scriptures, they do not mandate face coverings. The hijab, yes. The head covering, yes. But the face covering is not even in the Quran. It's not even in the Hadith. So for those of you calling it, quote-unquote, Islamophobic, a term I'm not a fan of, it's not even a mandate in Islam. It's an interpretation, the Salafi interpretation, the hardline interpretation of Islam, which the most militant form of that is ISIS and Boko Haram. So these are the so-called choices that you're defending. These are not choices. And even if they were, you don't make exceptions based on choices. You can't choose an exception for yourself while the rest of the country is following a law.
Couldn't agree more. Great to have you on. Please come on again. Kunwar Khaldain Shahid there on Talk, Pakistan correspondent for The Diplomat. What is it, 24 minutes to 10 o'clock? Where's the morning gone? Still no breakfast. Julia Hartley-Brewer is here from 10 o'clock, and I'm slightly dubious because coming up next, I don't quite know whether to talk about Boris Johnson at COVID. I thought he says children paid a huge price during COVID due to his school closures. No, what's it, Sherlock? Also, Christmas is coming early, ladies and gentlemen, in Birmingham. Don't want to upset no one, but in Birmingham we've discovered you might not have had your rubbish dealt with for 16 months, and there might be rats the size of cats roaming the streets. But it's all right, because we've put the bloody Christmas tree up. That'll make everybody happy. Here's a man who's not... But is he happy, Graham, about Christmas? Graham, morning.
Morning, Jezza. It's Graham from Enniskillen. Regarding Christmas decorations, our local Home Bargains has had multiple aisles of Christmas decorations since the first week in October, for God's sake. It's just commercialism gone mad. And by the way, I love mince pies.
Well, mince pies. This is from 6 o'clock. I like mince pies. Why are they called mince pies? Why haven't we had any mince pies? He sounds like the Grinch, him, doesn't he? Christmas. Listen, I'm all for it not coming too early, but you've got to enjoy it, haven't you? Christmas comes but once a year. Look at the miserable sods through this glass. Right, Talk. We're back in 3. I'm off for another week. It's me age.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Sorry, we're just reminiscing of Patrick Kyle in the nursing home. My old man, bless him. 20 minutes, he was different class. Let me tell you, he'd be looking at what's going on today and going, it's all gone up. 0344 499 1000. We have to talk about it. It was the COVID inquiry yesterday. Boris Johnson arrived. Jeremy Radical's on breakfast. Anyway, Boris arrived and he admitted that children paid a huge price during COVID due to his school closures. No, what's it, Sherlock? Have a watch.
It was obvious that there had to be consideration of closing schools. I was very much hoping that we wouldn't have to close schools, I thought it was a nightmare idea.
I just to give you my personal take, which people probably know, I was very supportive initially of Boris Johnson. I thought it was probably the most difficult thing in the world to play that, but I think they floundered unbelievably and he left office in disgrace. And I told a story earlier about my my wife's brother's children who did not see a teacher for 8.5 months, not even online. And there is no doubt the impact that decision had on this entire generation. Molly Kingsley is the founder of Us for Them. Molly, good morning. Welcome to Morning Glory. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you.
Did you buy Boris Johnson yesterday? Did you? What's the real impact of the decision his government took?
Well, it's been catastrophic, and it's beyond any doubt now, isn't it, that school closures were an absolute nightmare. I mean, Johnson used that word and he was right. I think in many ways, actually, the thing that's been revealing about this module of the inquiry is less what the politicians have said and less what Chris Whitty have said, all of which has been largely predictable, although, you know, it's sort of interesting to see some of the detail. But actually, the inquiry's stance, I think, has been quite shocking. So if you listen to the testimony yesterday and also Williamson, of course, we had last week, the inquiry is very clearly coming at it from the point of view that the key failure here was not the shutting down of schools, but the failure to plan in advance for a more thorough shutdown. So, you know, they're not saying, how do we keep schools open next time? How do we have a can-do attitude even with a reduced workforce? They're saying, well, let's just make sure we're better prepared to close them. And I think for people like me who campaigned about it, and actually just for parents who have been, as you say, Jeremy, left in no doubt about the very real harm flowing from these decisions, that's quite a chilling outcome for this inquiry.
I find it's a difficult one for me. My kids are lucky enough, the ones that were at school at the time, they were at a private school. I'm not going to lie. And they had, and I made the difference there between my two kids are at school. They had complete involvement with their teachers every day. And how wrong was that Vic's brother's kids didn't? It was such a chasm. And I remember being on air and remember thinking, what else are you supposed to do? Three months into a job you've craved all your life, people arrive at your office and go, we're in a terrible situation that's not been planned for. Either I kill 250,000 people or I destroy the economy. There's no doubt hindsight's a great thing. I'm not sticking up for Boris when I say that, but we saw it every day. What was Whitty saying yesterday? The advice I gave wasn't accurate. Well, you should be bloody responsible for not giving more accurate advice. But isn't the truth that nobody knew what they were doing? This had never happened before. And the only point of this inquiry should be to ensure this never, ever happens again. I don't believe that a country that's supposed to be, or was, the 5th biggest and most successful in the world cannot have been less prepared for something. I mean, we all remember that day. You need to stay at home. I remember looking at my watch on a walk with my wife thinking, we've been out 57 minutes, there's armed police in Windsor Great Park, we've got to go. Crazy times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I think there is a degree of nuance in this debate, which it doesn't often come across. I think we can all envisage scenarios where schools should be closed. You know, you may well have a future pandemic, which is of serious risk, not only to adults, but children. And I think in those circumstances, we may well say, actually, the reasonable and fair and safe thing to do is to close schools. But we knew very early on that COVID was not that pandemic, that actually one of the blessings should have been that children, by and large, and actually in the vast majority of cases, were not seriously impacted. And yet we gave up when it came to keeping schools open. And there won't be any meaningful interrogation. It's very clear after this week that the inquiry is not going to get into why that was, why essentially you had Boris and Williamson, who, for all their faults, and as you know, I was so critical of both of them and would be again. But for all their faults, what has come through from this week's testimony is they did want, at least initially, to try and keep schools open. And I would say that was a good instinct and should have been applauded and taken seriously.
And that's a really interesting word, because I'm going to apply that to the whole show this morning, Molly, because I think, weirdly, that what we lack in politicians now is the courage to go with your instinct, actually, because I think there are so many people and so many focus groups and SPADs and advisors and people with either an agenda or a point to prove. And I'm not, again, like you, I'm not stocking up for Boris at all. But if you got 15 people, I mean, we talked about it yesterday on the show, and we had, you say it wasn't dangerous. My brother, my sister were in intensive care. You've no idea. Of course we should have shut schools, and everybody else is going, no, they shouldn't. This has ruined a generation. I just feel like, weirdly, it was a completely badly managed mess that impacted so many people. But I fear if we went back, and I'm not sticking up for Johnson, and you put another leader and another scientist and another government in place, it would have been as catastrophic as it was. Yes, we should have done things differently. And yes, most importantly, we should learn from it. That's the only thing I can take from it, you know?
Well, and I think you've said the key word, you know, that the fear of it, we have to ask why these politicians didn't stick to their instincts. We do also, I think, have to ask, and you've said it yourself, you know, why so many scientists, many of whom had significant vested interest, why these scientists got to overrule effectively our elected politicians. You know, that would be a meaningful exam question for this COVID inquiry.
I mean, you think about it, don't you? You go to school, excuse the pun, you learn from teachers. I'm not sticking up for politicians, but it's pretty obvious to me that a lot of our politicians aren't that switched on. They get elected, they're not going to be experts in fields. That's why one of the biggest arguments I have is, what was it, Grant Shapps did 4 jobs in 12 months. It did defence to home sector. I mean, ridiculous. How can you have any impact? And then you get into this whole debate. I'm not saying Boris Johnson or Gavin Williamson or any of them should have known about a pandemic. But I would have thought that the scientists should have known. And for them to row back, like you said, I think is, but more than anything, for this generation, I hope that, I just hope that the huge price that they did pay those kids can somehow never happen again. And I guess you'd agree with that to finish, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely agree with that. I have no faith, though, that we won't be closing schools again. There is actually, perhaps to end on a slightly more positive note, there is an amendment being put in. I know it's a very controversial bill, the Children's School and Wellbeing Bill, but Lord Young has tabled an amendment which would, in effect, make school closures subject to a parliamentary vote. I think that is a great idea. It would give at least a degree of protection and scrutiny to such a momentous decision, and it would actually help to buffer the politicians against, you know, the advice and the influence of scientists, because they would have to go to Parliament, and that can only be a good thing.
Gurdeep sent this. Morning, Jez. Listening to your guest Molly, here's my take. Shutting down schools was due to the teachers' union, in part demanding that schools closed. My daughter suffered big time and even had a breakdown. Boris, of course, was put under pressure to do so, but even I now can say it wasn't all of Boris Johnson's fault.
Well, I mean, that's a very, very interesting point. And actually, it was a point that Gavin Williamson talked about directly in his testimony. And he said that the core reason why they did not envisage and they didn't want to get into the possibility of school closures was because they knew that if they had that plan on the table, bad actors, and he named expressly the NEU, would jump on it and refuse to try even and keep schools open. And that was a really key bit of testimony that the inquiry just moved on from. You know, we should be asking, well, why? Why do we have the biggest teaching union in the land being, in effect, anti-teaching for this period?
Couldn't agree more. Molly, lovely to have you on, founder for Us for Them. We really appreciate your time on Morning Glory. I don't think this is particularly funny, but I'm going to do it anyway. Terry in Slough, who has obviously ambitions to be a stand-up comedian. Good morning, Jeremy. What is the difference between this useless, incompetent, crappy Labour government and a battery? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a battery has a positive side. Back in 3.
It's unbelievable, but it's been unbelievable for a very long time. Even Tony Blair conceded in 2003 that the problem with the immigration system is that they can come here, claim anything, and we effectively can't disprove it. So then he dressed it up, and successive governments dressed it up in sort of faux law, fake law, where, we have some sort of nebulous concept of a hearing, and the judge is supposed to decide everything. We gleefully ignored whilst we were making money and the country was fine. We're no longer making money, the country's not fine, and by the way, these people are coming in ridiculous numbers that we simply cannot cope with.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
7 minutes to 10. Julia Hartley-Brewer is here. Get your calls in nice and early. 0344 499 1000. The burqa debate has got you going. Jezza, perhaps we could all start wearing the burqa. That would stuff Starmer. Next, march in red, white and blue burqas, says Richard Northolt. Jeffrey, why did I do a rainbow impression? Don't ban the burqa, Jez. I think they should have the choice. I want British values, but I also want people to feel welcome here. And if you want to protect the Jewish community, then we must be prepared to do the same for others. On that note, though I say this, instead give the burqa the same rules as a motorcycle helmet. Where are we going with this? I think the hindrance of having to remove it to enter the filling station to pay, or likewise to have to remove it to go to the bank, would greatly reduce the use. Very interesting. Yeah. Pathetic. Mel Strike can't give a yes or no to policy questions, but can on the leadership. Exactly why people are turning to reform. Conservative Party are still full of one nation wet, says John in Market Drayton. Graham, 4 Tory MPs, all with differing opinions on the burqa. Is it any wonder the British public don't support any of them? Pete, good morning.
Never mind ban the burqa, ban the burq. I mean, you've got a choice there. You can start with Starmer, Lammy, Ted Siliband and all those others. What a choice. I'd be happy to ban all those, wouldn't you, Jeremy? Ban the bloody lot of them, because all they're doing is cause us a trouble, taking our country down the drain, making us poorer, giving everything away to everybody that seems to want to walk into this country, and also shoving money abroad to all the countries that hate us as well.
Now, you might think that that's a pretty good summing up of what's wrong with the United Kingdom. I mean, it's not a great day, is it, Wednesday? We've got inflation with food prices. Listen, Christian's just told me he took his wife out for dinner, not with a rifle, on Sunday. They had 2 roasts, 2 glasses of wine, 2 small desserts. It was 90 quid. Food's through the roof, electricity's through the roof. Nobody's got any money. Everybody's depressed. The whole thing's gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is me trying to sell a quiz. Leave me alone. How good would you feel to win £100,000 right now? Listen up, it's our biggest cash prize yet. Am I doing any good? And we're going all out. Where are we all going now? What if I win it? We'll take you all now. That's right, a massive, who wrote this? A massive £100,000, completely tax-free. Could be yours. You're the lucky winner. Who gets picked? You can come to London on the 3rd. Why you want to come to? You've got to come to London to pick it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You want to win 100 grand? You'll be able to go to the supermarket for the next 3 weeks without being skint. This is how to do it. There's a clip. Here we go.
18 plus UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word money to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or you can enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by the 6th of November at 4 p.m. This is a TalkSport limited promotion run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Much worth it. £100,000. Thank you very much indeed. You can get all that information and ask for the bill payer's permission if you're going to make that call. 4 minutes to 10, 4 minutes away from the Queen of Westminster, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just time for a quick call. I'm going to Stockport. Nice. Darren, you've got 30 seconds. Go.
Yeah, it's about banning the burqa, Jeremy. I think we should. But while we're banning that, why don't we ban all these bloody balaclavas that all these kids are wearing at the same time? So there's a ban on the face covering, it's a ban for everyone.
Right, all kids can't wear balaclavas, even in the winter when you've got cold ears. What are you trying to do, create frostbite across the United Kingdom, man? What's wrong with you? Poor children will have cold ears.
Put fluffy earmuffs on.
I tell you a true story. This is generally true. When I was doing the Jeremy Kyle show, we had to go to what's called Lapland, and I'm stood, and it's minus 35 degrees, and my ears feel like they've got stalactites on. And the director said something to me that's never been said before. Get your hat off. And I went, why? He went, Noel Edmonds never wore a woolly hat. And I froze simply for the kids. Thank you for your call. 0344 499 1000. Jez, says Alison from Billericay. Burkas are a security risk. One of the two 7 bombers escaped from London in 21 years ago. However, playing devil's advocate, when you look at how these men treat white girls in Western attire, there is an argument for them wanting to hide themselves. Certainly, this has been the debate this morning. Thank you very much indeed for everybody. Dave, Robert Jenrick, I'm sorry, but saying I probably ban the burqa. Why won't he give a concrete answer saying he will? Sorry, that's why I will never vote Tory again. Thanks for listening. The Queen of Westminster has walked in. How are you?
Hello, hello.
Are you known as the Queen of Westminster?
No, not at all.
Because
But you just carry on with that. I mean, you know.
I think you're in this building, darling, there's a few more queens than you, aren't there,
as
to
you
be
know,
fair?
I prefer Empress.
Oh, do you? How are you, Empress?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I'm absolutely befuddled by this grooming gangs inquiry, and Jess Phillips said, how on earth is she still in a job when she's basically accused a survivor of grooming gangs a liar? And has been proven to have been a liar herself.
And I also think she symptomises. You would agree with me in this. You know these women who quite rightly over the years have talked about women's rights. There was a story the other day.
She's been a fantastic campaigner.
Yes. So now you're in a position. Explain to me why a migrant, when he rapes a girl on a Bournemouth beach and a judge goes, it's an aberration, you've had a... Why
he doesn't
you
know any better.
And all your mates, why aren't you sticking up for women's rights?
But also, I think the same with Jess Phillips, where it's sort of like, but I've been one of the good people all these years. But yeah, and now you're in a position, instead of just hugging people and saying stuff, you can actually do something and change